personally. EquitableOnline.com.
1620 The Zone.
Tatum wants some room to operate. He's got Melton on him. Between the legs. Sidestep. Puts up another three. Down! The Tatum tornado continues. He's got 41. Tatum fires away. Puts it in. 51 for Jason Tatum in Game 7. On the way down the floor, holds up a 50 sign. And he now has the record for most points in a Game 7.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, especially my mom. So I had to put on a special performance for her.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
Good morning, Omaha. It is Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy. And yep, you're hearing my voice right away.
One, you have a voice. That's always good.
I do.
We don't take that for granted anymore.
Hey, I've been taking my daily allergy pill every day. We're not going to have what somehow, for some reason, happened a month ago where I was every other week sounding like who's the guy in Mrs. Doubtfire that is his brother that talks like this.
Oh, David.
Yeah. Whatever.
Harvey Firestein.
Yes, that's what I sounded like for a while. So no, I'm making sure I take
He's the best part of Independence Day.
Yeah. There you go. Another great movie.
Go to Anestus.
Yeah. Everyone knows that voice, except when you're doing a 4-hour radio show. I don't even care what the topic is. It's probably not ideal to have that voice when it's not your normal voice, but so I'm good. But also, as we signed off on Friday, and I thought, first of all, it was great on Gary's part to, be able to share our memories with our mothers as it was Mother's Day, and hope everybody had a fantastic Mother's Day. Hope you showered and spoiled your mother.
I thought you were going to leave it at I hope you showered. I was like,
well, I hope you did shower. This is Sunday. Sometimes it's optional. But hopefully,
can you tell he has a son.
You showered them with gifts. You spoiled them. You did all the great things that we do for our moms and the special people in our lives that are just rock stars when it comes to motherhood. But an emotional Gary Sharp at the end of Friday, we learned shortly after, and our friend Gary, who is not going to be with us for the next couple of days this week, lost his mother. We found out shortly after we signed off on Friday. So first and foremost, our thoughts, our prayers are with Gary, his family, and their time of mourning. And so we don't know exactly when Gary's going to be back this week, if at all.
And we told him, you know what? You come back when you come back.
Right.
And, I say I've been here since August, September. And so I've listened to Gary tell stories about his mom. And so I knew of her well because of being, sitting in this chair. And so we didn't know where he was going other than Mother's Day. Okay. So we share our memories. And then he started telling his story, and there just seemed something different in his voice. So I was like, oh, this is okay.
Just thought maybe it was, as we all have our connection.
It's like, wow, he's taking us somewhere.
Yeah.
And there was a reason why he was taking us somewhere, because at the end, and if you haven't had a chance, go back and listen. It was a beautiful segment. Listen to what he has to say, especially if you've listened to the show. You've heard Gary's stories, obviously. And when he said that at the end, it took me a second to have it register, because I'm doing my thing over here and clicking the button to get us to the break so we can switch shows and get Connor and Josh in here. And then it hit me what he had just said. And I just kind of looked up, stunned and just heartbroken for him, because, and then he talked to us and told us what happened. And we had to do a couple of things after the show, for production in the other studio. And so I told him I'd be thinking of you this weekend. And I did often, I did think of him, because that's, I don't even want to imagine, and just how heartbroken he was, and to come in and to do the show Friday, you'd never know
Yeah.
anything was going on, and so it kind of just stuck with me the whole weekend, and obviously people that listen and know him well know this by now, but yeah, that's why he's not here, and we said no, you come back
Yeah.
whenever you want to come back.
Yeah, and if if this is news to you, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that this is news to you, because I know Gary, in his own way, is very private about stuff like that, and I think in our own way we are too. But I know we are obviously thinking of him. But please think of Gary and his family during a very tough time in the passing of his mother that we learned after the show on Friday. Not that there's ever an easy time to endure a loss like that, but also in a weekend that we are celebrating some very special women in our life. I'm sure that heart was even a little bit more heavy yesterday.
And the
it's
story he told leading up to that,
Yeah.
by all means, like I said, it's there on the site if you go back, and it's the last segment of Friday's show. Go back and listen to that, and
Yeah.
listen. I mean, we all had our own stories to tell, but listen to his story, especially if you've listened to the show and you know Gary for a long time. Um, if it doesn't do something for you or affect you in any way, you're not human. So.
He used the word selfless, and I thought that was the most amazing way to probably sum up um, the relationships with mothers and grandmothers, and the special women in our lives that helped raise us. So again, uh, won't be hearing Gary for the next a few days, if at all this week. We'll again, he'll be back when he's back, and we're excited to have Gary back when he will be back. But right now, mourning the loss of his mother, and we're obviously thinking of Gary, and look forward to having him back when he's ready to. So that's where we are here on a Monday. I know it's that's kind of a somber note, especially as you look outside.
And he would say, "All right, get on with it." Start.
Yeah, exactly.
Start
as we're looking outside, the weather, kind of maybe matches the tone of that announcement. But it also, if you look at that weather right now, what it must be like on sports talk radio in the city of brotherly love. You heard there in the highlights, it was Boston, and we'll get to Boston's triumph and the question: can you finally start trusting Boston? Kind of like this Nebraska baseball team all of a sudden on the weekend, on a team that I've said I just don't know what they are. They pull off the sweep, and out of all three baseball teams in the state of Nebraska going into their final week of regular season play, of conference play, it is Nebraska that doesn't have to sweat making the conference tournament. Creighton does.
Well, they did what they had to do.
They did. How many times can we say that recently about this Nebraska baseball team? But they did. Creighton and Omaha, it is not a lock that they will be making their conference tournament just yet. The good part for both Omaha and for Creighton is they are in a position where they control their own destiny of getting into the conference tournament. But some dicey play as of late has put them in a position to where you're going into that final weekend with some work still to do. For Nebraska, that sweep over Penn State, they have clinched a spot in the Big Ten tournament and a chance to improve their seed with a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series in West Lafayette, Indiana. But the question of the Boston Celtics, can we finally trust them? We'll get to that in a moment. But what about the Sixers? First of all, did we just see the last game of Doc Rivers on the Sixers bench? Also, James Harden. What the hell do you do there? Joel Embiid in an elimination game, who doesn't play like the MVP that he is.
Well, let's call it what it is. They quit. They're up by 8. They're looking good.
And how is that possible in an elimination game on the road in a building where not many have had success, but you, the 76ers, have had success?
Harden commits a flagrant, which, that's where it all kind of started.
Jimmy, he was bad. I mean, it wasn't.
I'm not surprised.
It wasn't just the fact that he scored 9 points, but taking care of the basketball, like dribbling off his foot, passing to nobody. Some of his shots didn't even draw. He was bad.
Some dudes are just not built for this time of the year. Some dudes are. Naturally, you will see the cliches, the cream rises to the top, and throughout the course of history, you think of players that come up big in those big games. When Steph had his 50 burger a couple weeks ago, nobody was surprised.
Yeah.
The great ones just have those moments. Tatum sent a message yesterday with the 51 points that when you talk about the great performances in Celtics history, first of all, stop there. Celtics history. It's not like they're an expansion team. The legends that
we
have
could talk
played for
about
that
Bird
franchise.
and Havlicek
And Tatum goes above
Paul
all
Pierce.
of them. And Harden's always just been one of those guys. Look, he puts up great numbers. He flops like none other, and they fall for it. Not Scott Foster's crew, but you look back to when they had the Game 7 at home against the Warriors several years ago, and they go like 7 for 50 for 3, and it was almost poetic. He and Doc seem to be linked in some ways in the fact that Doc will get you to the second round, but that's about it. So do I think something's probably going to happen? Likely. I think it's
and Doc didn't really shy away from it in the postgame.
No.
He's coached enough in this league to understand,
and he's played enough in this league.
I mean,
he was a
already
great
saw
player.
what happened with the Suns,
Which that was a mistake, but you have an owner that obviously is got some ego.
Yeah.
And he wants to make his own deal. Well, that's fine. If Monty Williams wants to, he'll be out of a job for about 5 minutes. Theoretically, he will be in
Monty
demand.
Williams could be your next head coach for the Sixers if that
wouldn't be terrible
if that
either.
spot becomes available.
And for that's the Phoenix Suns' loss.
Yeah.
In them doing that. It's a knee-jerk reaction.
But for the Sixers, and Doc knows, Doc's been around, and he just acknowledged that, hey, you're never safe in this business. And he's right. But the whole, and you remember this when it started with Joel Embiid and the trust the process. Did anybody think at any moment last night or yesterday afternoon, I should say, remember when the Sixers could have had Jason Tatum, but instead they decided to move up to get who? Markelle Fultz. I get it. Like, hey, hindsight's always 20/20. Could you have ever predicted that Markelle Fultz would all of a sudden just forget how to shoot a basketball? Like literally, like just become absent-minded in that skill, where it's like I don't know what to do. But when you think of the moves that they've made, hell, remember they had Jimmy Butler on their squad. I mean,
forget that.
Think of the players that have been in and out of this organization that are not currently with the organization, or the opportunities that you had in the draft. Look, I live that horrible, horrific nightmare every year when I think of the 2017 draft and that the Chicago Bears could have had one Patrick Mahomes. Instead, they opted for Mitchell Trubisky. Like I've lived that.
Hey, he would have been a legend in Chicago.
Yeah, I've lived that. So I understand but I always get tired of the, okay, I get it. At the time, you could not have predicted that Patrick Mahomes' career would go where it did. Maybe it was a little bit more likely you could predict where Mitchell Trubisky's would go, but you couldn't predict where Patrick Mahomes would go. So I know that sometimes it's a conversation that's always interesting when you see where it is now taking place, where certain careers have gone in certain draft slots. But when you think about it yesterday and you're watching the Steph Curry Game 7 points record lasted, 2 weeks? Now you're looking at what Tatum did. You think about that draft class, and you think of that was the infamous, for the Sixers, the infamous Markelle Fultz draft class, where they could have had Tatum. It's just very, I think, gut-wrenching for Sixers fans when you see how it ended yesterday, and where it looks like there is no sign of this changing, no light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm not going to pretend to say that, I know how the Sixers are going to go about this. Like James Harden was talking about it after the game when he said, the Celtics, that's a core group that has been together for a while. They've got a championship pedigree. So it's not any surprise.
James said that?
Yeah, Harden said that. It
sounds like excuses to me.
Exactly. And he said that, this core group for the Sixers, when you talk about, guys like Maxey, Embiid, Harden.
You quit in game 7.
Right.
You got your ass kicked in game 7.
But they've only been together for 1 year, though. But does anybody feel like, okay, give them 2 more years and it'll be any different? You think that's the case? That in 2 years, if this group stays together in Philadelphia, that all of a sudden they will knock down that door and they will be playing in an NBA Finals or even a conference.
They
finals
have some great pieces. Obviously, starting with the MVP, which no knee-jerk reaction. There's some people saying, "Oh, they need to trade him." No, you don't need to do that either.
You sure as hell ain't giving Harden a max deal, though.
Yeah, you need to, and that's the Daryl Morey's now in the front office there.
Yep.
And you remember his history with James Harden. You need to get rid of him as soon as possible. You need to bring somebody that'll bring sort of a lot of those things, but more of a veteran presence because they have good pieces. And Embiid had a career year this year. Obviously, he was the MVP. You can build around that. It can be a good team. And it's not that, look, you can lose game 7. That's okay. But you should never, it got to a point in the third quarter when the Celtics couldn't miss. And I get that. And Jason Tatum couldn't miss. They basically were just, they Cancun the crap out of that second half. And we're done. And Doc keeps calling timeout because, and at one point he calls timeout, they fall behind 30, but you could tell it's just one of those timeouts like, I'm out of things to say.
And you're playing in an environment which, look, I have no problem that when you kind of call out your fans, that can sort of backfire every now and then. But, and I didn't think for a second what Jaylen Brown did after game 6 was calling out their fans, but I think it was more of a challenge where he said, the atmosphere's been okay. It could be a lot better. And when it is, it's one of the best atmospheres in all of the association. Boy, that place was live. Like
I've seen that before in 2005 in the finals. The Spurs said the same thing when they went to Detroit, and the fans there were on another level. So they almost had a challenge for their fans, and especially in Game 7, they finally matched that intensity.
Yeah,
because they acted like, oh, we'd won a couple of titles, and in that fourth quarter, especially of Game 7, I know I'm digging way deep and going way back.
Go to the archives.
What I remember in the second half, but especially in the fourth quarter, which went to the fourth quarter tied at 57, the entire arena stood the entire fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Never forget that. And it was just a different level. So when he said that, I don't see it as always calling him out. He's basically like, hey, we need you.
Well, and
this is the time to bring it.
And then that's a prideful sports city.
Because you're playing
right
a
too.
city that their fans are awesome too in Philly. I mean, they care like none other. So Boston has a lot of pride. Wicked winners, and it
was
showed
awesome. It was. I mean, it's a prideful city when it comes to sports, and when they feel like one of their own, isn't calling them out, but is challenging them. Yeah, you're usually going to get a pretty good response out of that.
And he responded with the game he had.
The fact that Brown was everywhere. He was all over the floor. Hell, even when George Niang was pulling his knee and trying to keep him from getting down the other side of the floor. Like, he was everywhere. So he matched. That's what I loved about sort of that challenge to the fans is I'm going to bring it. I mean, we could be down by 50 and I'm going to be all over the place. We all need you. And it worked perfectly. So then now we get to Tatum. We talked about this last week. Watching Tatum up until that fourth quarter of game 6, 5. 5?
6.
6, game 6.
There's 3 points going to the fourth
That's right,
quarter.
yes. And then he finishes with 19-16 in the fourth.
And how the narrative changes after that fourth quarter.
And just as I was talking about James Harden a little bit ago, where the misses were sort of unfathomable. Like they're shots not only that, Tatum's going to make in his sleep, but it almost got to the point where maybe his like shooting mechanics were starting to change a little bit because he was pressing so much. And look, everybody can relate to that in some walk of their life, whether you're an athlete or whatever, where you just get the yips. And it felt like for a moment Tatum had the shooting yips. Finishes strong and is able to put out an epic performance to where there's just something about watching a guy who is in the zone. And we've seen it so many times with MJ. You saw it with Kobe. I mean, we've seen it with LeBron, Steph Curry, some of the greats. Watching Tatum in a game 7 just in the zone where at one point you could see him mouth, "Oh my God." It was almost kind of like when Jordan does the shoulder shrug of like, it doesn't matter where I put up a shot. It doesn't matter who is defending me. Yeah, bring on Embiid. I'll shoot over him. I can't miss. And this is fun. Like, just at one point, he was toying with the Sixers. And, like, even Embiid, like, okay, step, nope, step back. Step, nope, step back. Up, maybe here comes an entry pass. Now, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and shoot it. And it's just going to splash. Like, that was fun. Watching Tatum just go off in that game. And I think about the struggles that he had in the previous night where he was in the first three quarters, but to finish the way that he did, how that just pumped so much more confidence in him. And he was fighting it. Like, he was admittedly frustrated with the way that he was kind of having to fight that situation, but then had a solid fourth quarter. Like, if you see a Jason Tatum 19-point night, you're probably not, like, overly impressed by that. You're probably like, okay, that's what he does. When you watch him get over 16 in the fourth like he did, and then you see what he did yesterday, and I saw Zach the Lego Maniac in the Equitable Bank inbox saying Tatum series MVP. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. I don't think there's any doubt.
He stepped up.
He did. And that's the difference between watching in an elimination game, and sure, you're in the comforts of your own home building, and a crowd that was so engaged in that. But the difference between a guy like Tatum and a guy like Harden. Like Harden, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. But in those moments, when you're watching a guy that, like, you're on the air right now, Jimmy, saying that they were in Cancun mode. How is that? And I'm not disagreeing with you, but my question is, if you're a Hall of Famer and you're one of the guys, one of the elite level players, that in moments like this, you just expect the game to be elevated. You expect a guy to...
If you're going to go down to game 7, you go down swinging to where you'd be like, hey, we left it out on the floor. They made a shot.
Right.
They played better, but we have no
But it
shame.
ain't because
It's a
of
great
you.
group.
Ain't because of you.
Give you an example.
Remember what Harden did in game 1?
Yeah.
Where the hell was that?
Oh, well,
I'm not saying he's got to put up, 40 or 50 points,
but you got to be better than you were yesterday.
My God, that was awful.
I'll give you an example. One of my first NBA memories, and you might remember this because you're a couple years older, but that's not being facetious. I mean, literally, it's just a couple years older.
It is true.
Dominique Wilkins
These
and
are
Larry
facts. These are
Bird's
facts.
duel. Yeah, Game 7 in 1988, same round at the Garden, and it's one of the great duels in NBA history where Bird and Dominique went at it. I think it was like 118, 116.
Yeah.
At the end of that game, of course, you talk about the greatness of Larry Bird and all that, but what you also talked about, and you do to this day, Dominique and the Hawks' performance, to where you're like, there's no shame in that they lost the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those, the Celtics just beat them. It wasn't that Atlanta lost it. It wasn't that Atlanta quit. It wasn't anything. And that's what made it, heartbreaking for them to lose that game. But there was no shame in that, oh, you didn't say, well, they lost by 30 and Dominique didn't show up. Dominique had like 40 something points in that game.
Yep.
2008, same. It's like we're going down Celtics history. It's just a coincidence I'm doing this, but you had the great LeBron Paul Pierce game back and forth with the Cavs, and that was an epic Game 7 to where you go back and forth. And so, it'd be real easy to sit here and be like, well, the Sixers failed because they didn't get out of and that's a different discussion. The main discussion here is, why is it that when the Celtics started throwing punches, you basically tapped out?
Yep.
And it was a collective tapping out.
Right.
And obviously it starts with Harden because, hey, you want to be one of the dudes in this league and a star. That's what happens.
Yeah, it was exciting of a performance. And I have no skin in the game. Like, I'm not a Celtics fan. I'm not a Sixers fan. I enjoy good basketball. I was looking forward to a Game 7 of, okay, let's
I didn't think it would go like this.
I didn't either. Well, I want to see the league MVP, and I want to see, what Harden has against, guys like Tatum and Brown, and see what's going to happen there. Tatum delivered.
And even if he
Celtics
still has
delivered.
this 51, if the Sixers are right there and
Right.
they take it to the end, they're like, hey, dude had 51. We couldn't stop him.
Right.
It's not that we suck. He was great.
I mean, Embiid is not blameless in the performance yesterday, too, because he was out to lunch. But the guy who stole the show in a not so great way was James Harden, and just the lack of presence in that game, which has you wondering more about the Sixers' direction going forward.
Would Allen Iverson have played like that in a Game 7 when he was with the Sixers?
No.
Probably not.
No.
He was pretty great.
So through it all, through a weekend of it, we've got our conference final set, and they're great. And
I'm excited about him.
And as Zach Legomaniac also points out, could we see one of the greatest rivalries in all of basketball in the NBA Finals?
You kind of almost forget about that.
Yes, exactly. Could we see the Lakers and the Celtics? But
if David Stern were still alive.
This is going to be a lot of fun because the Lakers dethroning the defending champs, but taking on an absolute whale of opponent in the Nuggets. And then you've got
and credit to LA
because Miami team that just, you know what?
They're an 8 seed in number only.
They're just winning. Yeah.
They actually remind me, not identically, but in the way they've gotten hot as an 8 seed. And I know it's a lockout.
Jimmy is playoff Jimmy, baby.
And I know it was a lockout season in '99, but the Knicks were an 8 seed. They upset Miami as a 1 in the first round. Mm-hmm. They swept Atlanta in the second, and then they went up against Indiana and won in 6 games. By the time they got to the finals, it was a shortened season. So, I mean, it was a logjam in the standings, but it was an 8 seed that got hot down the stretch, and they started playing like more than they are. We all thought that the Heat would be better than an 8 seed to begin with. They've just sort of gelled, and that's even with the injury to Hero. And it helps when you have playoff Jimmy. But now they believe, basically, they're like, well, why not? Why can't we win? Mm-hmm. Oh, you can't beat the Celtics. We beat Milwaukee in 5. They're the best record in the league. They handled New York. It was a 6-game series win. And New York, look, you can't say they quit the other night. This goes back to yesterday.
It's a good point.
Brunson
Fair point.
Left it out on the floor. The Knicks did what they had to do to try and push it to game 7. There's no shame in that loss. There's no shame even in losing the series. But the Heat now think they can, and they can win, because this goes back to the original premise of the question. Do you still think you can trust the Celtics?
Right.
You know, they have this game yesterday. What if they go lay an egg Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in a long series.
Yep.
I do think Boston will win, but I think it'll be 6 or 7 games.
The Lakers Denver series, I don't know what to expect, because I do think Denver is a much more formidable challenge.
And credit to the Lakers
against the defending champs of the Warriors, who the Lakers did knock out, but
they took care of business the other night.
There are different challenges, obviously, starting with how you're going to go about defending the Joker. But hey, are you not entertained? And we get this going tomorrow. You'll get the Western Conference Finals getting underway tomorrow, and then, as you pointed out, Eastern Conference Finals on Wednesday, game 1. It's been an amazing playoff.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
You guys, Monday, I left, and so I was listening at the end of the show. You and Gary made a point. You've gotten to the conference finals, and this still stands what Gary said. You still do not know who's going to win.
No,
on paper, Denver's the best team of the 4 teams. But it's not like it's Denver's to win. It'd be real easy to write off the Lakers because they're a 7 seed.
But you still got 38-year-old LeBron, who
look what he did Friday.
Right? Are you going to doubt him?
And he's going to will his team. I'll put it to you this way. Now, I think Denver will win, probably in 5 games. However, if it goes longer than that, wouldn't surprise me one bit at all. Because at some point, people got to start thinking, you know what? Laker team kind of put it together. Another team that also at this point is a 7 seed in number only. Mm-hmm. Look what they did Friday. Most people thought there's no way Golden State, they're the champions. They're going to find a way to push this to 7. And it's going to be like, game 7, and then watch for another 50 burger from Steph, or for game 6 Clay to show up. Boy. And not only did they lose, they're blown out.
Can we, and we'll do this maybe a little bit later on too, of reminiscing to the weekend because of what now has led to our conference finals matchup. If we're going to be hard on James Harden, and that was the most recent appearance that we saw, we got to go back into the weekend, boy, Clay. Oof.
We didn't see game 6 Clay.
Oh, my.
We didn't see Clay.
We didn't see Clay. I think that was...
I was watching the game. I stayed up and I watched the entire thing because it's Friday, but also I was intrigued as to what we were going to see.
I was too, absolutely.
And even to the third quarter, I was like, well, certainly they're going to mount a comeback. And then at a certain point late in the third, I realized the game's over.
Yep.
It's over because the Lakers are running a layup line.
Yeah.
Just stop there.
Yeah.
The fact that they're getting shots at the rim every possession with very little resistance. Even if Steph goes off, if you're not able to stop the other team from scoring. And so then it kind of reaches a point when you realize, oh, this is it.
Yep.
And they were who we thought they were.
That was impressive.
The Lakers did what they had to do because they had to win.
Yep.
because nobody was going to give them a chance that they had to play a Game 7 yesterday.
No,
I would have.
It was all good. All right, coming up on the show, we are going to be talking some Husker football as we get our post-spring schedule updates, meaning we are taking a look at the teams on the Nebraska 2023 schedule, how their spring went, and we will take a look at our good folks at Louisiana Tech. Going to be talking to Matt Bellinson at 8 o'clock. No Amy Just today. She's off this week, and then she'll be back with us next week. We've got our Hoop Heads, though, at 9 o'clock with Jacob Bigelow, and then at 9:40 with Joel Lorenzi. As some, again, college basketball, the transfer portal window shut late last week. So where do teams stand, including Nebraska, including Creighton? We will get into that. We got a baseball weekend to get into. We've got more NBA news away from the conference finals, and it has to do with Ja Morant, and it's not good news. We will get into that as well. Plenty of that coming your way. And, of course, our lineup is powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. You can hit us up on the JTech Construction Twitter feed, and that is at Nick Hanley, 1620. Or hit us up. You can email the show in the Equitable Bank inbox. They take banking personally, and you can hit me up at email the show, I should say, and throw Jimmy in there as well. Jimmy at 1620 The Zone or Handley 1620 The Zone.
I do get emails sometimes.
Yeah, you do. That's good. That's good. All right, so when we do come back, I want to get into the Nebraska baseball weekend, which was a must-show-up final home weekend. Lots of good that came from the weekend. There was one bad thing that did come out on Saturday that we will update you on. But all in all, Nebraska wakes up this morning knowing that regardless of how the series goes against Purdue, and that doesn't mean you let your foot off the gas at all, that they are in the Big Ten tournament after missing out on it last week. So how high in the standings and seeding-wise can Nebraska get? We'll get into all of that and much more. Creighton has a big weekend. Omaha has a big weekend, and those two teams actually play this week before their final conference series. That and much more as we get things started here on a Monday. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley at 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. Remember, no matter how you listen, it's still AM radio. 1620 The Zone.
You ain't seen nothing.
This is Ford Truck Month, America. Time to get up and get into Ford F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 46 years straight. Like the Ford F-150 or the all-new Ford Super Duty. Or check out Ford Maverick and Ford Ranger pickups. So get into Ford Truck Month and see what a built Ford Tough truck can do for you. There's a great selection in stock and ready for delivery today. Based on 1977's 2022 calendar year total sales.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
A lot of new enrollments, huh? Braylon, Brayden.
Monique's daycare is crawling with new arrivals.
Hey, sweetie, are you hungry?
She needs more early childhood educators.
Did your sock slip off again?
And a nap.
Hey there, little guy. Okay. Shh. Whoa.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Businesses of Omaha, settling for a website that looks like it's stuck in the early 2000s? Then it's time to level up with JM Online. Our local team builds custom websites that solve unique business needs. We're not your typical web design company. We're your partners in online success. Ready to take your website to the next level? Go to jmonline.com and request an initial call.
Nominations for the Serve Nebraska Step Forward Awards are now open. Volunteers are making Nebraska communities stronger every day. Help us celebrate their hard work by nominating the volunteers in your life. The Step Forward Awards are the most prestigious awards for volunteerism in the state, and honorees are hand-selected by Nebraska's governor. Learn more about the Step Forward Awards and submit a nomination by June 1st at serve.nebraska.gov. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
PACE, Police Athletics for Community Engagement Organization, is dedicated to preventing at-risk and disadvantaged inner-city children from becoming involved in street gangs, crime, drug use, and victimization. Last year, PACE served over 5,000 area kids with wholesome competition and free participation in soccer, baseball, CrossFit, and flag football. To help PACE and local families make sure kids have access to safe and fun spring and summer activities, please go to paceomaha.org to support the PACE mission. Thank you.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Now we got Dan Orlovsky tweets that are making Nebraska football fans a little itchy and scratchy.
Itchy and scratchy?
Yeah, a little bit itchy and scratchy. And I'm not talking about the cartoon in The Simpsons either. But
I was.
And we'll get into it. It most likely has something to do with Dylan Raiola and what Dan Orlovsky's intel is letting him in on. But yeah, on a weekend where it's like, oh, is Dylan Raiola going to be making an official visit in June to Nebraska, and then you see Dan Orlovsky tweeting, you're like, wait a minute, do I care anymore? So, and that might be where we have to go with that. And we'll dive into that in the 7 o'clock hour here as we're getting things cranked up here on a Monday. This morning's with Sharp and Handley with Jimmy. And I want to get into the baseball weekend because this is what's, we said, I think now 15 Saturdays away from college football, which is exciting. Exciting stuff there.
In grown-up time, it goes a lot faster.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Before you know it, we will be in single digits, and that will be exciting. Although then that will take really long. It'll feel like, gosh, I just dragging to the.
That's called July.
That is called July. But it is crazy to think that we are now entering the last weekend of the regular season in college baseball, and what that would mean to our area teams from Lincoln. And our two teams in Omaha and Creighton and Omaha, where they would be, what their prospects would look like when we started this conversation back in mid-February, where these teams would be when it came to their prospects of making the NCAA tournament. Well, we know that isn't going to be a complicated conversation. You got to win your conference tournament. But what is complicated is, are you going to make your conference tournament? And for Nebraska baseball fans and for the players and everybody involved, a couple weeks ago, it was probably getting a little bit more nerve-wracking than you wanted it to be. Remember, this was a Nebraska baseball team not that long ago, the weekend of the spring game, the football spring game, that is, that Nebraska entered a series against Iowa, first place in the Big Ten. And midweek mess Nebraska, as we've just so lovingly labeled them, maybe had a little bit of that spillover into some of the reliable weekend Nebraska product that we had seen in the first half of conference play, to where it got into, Jimmy, a point where you were wondering, with this log jam in the Big Ten baseball standings, was there a way that Nebraska could play themselves out of a top 8 seed and miss yet again the conference tournament? And so we left you on Friday emphasizing how big of a weekend it was for Nebraska. We'll start with them. That you had a Penn State team that had just recently got throttled by Omaha in a midweek game. So the optics of it were, okay. A lot of people are going to look at Penn State, and if you look at their overall record, it's okay. They're 24-22, but they're buried in the Big Ten standings now at 6-14. Nebraska, right out of the gate on Friday, if there was a time to sweep a team, it wasn't like if Nebraska didn't sweep Penn State, they wouldn't make the Big Ten tournament. But a sweep most likely would go a very long way. Now, would it go to the extent of it would clinch you a spot in the Big Ten tournament?
Well, y'all said they didn't have to sweep, but it sure would be recommended.
Oh, boy.
It'd be nice.
You would breathe a lot easier. You would sleep a lot easier.
Be a lot more fun.
Yes, it would. And Nebraska goes out, they piss pound Penn State Friday night.
That's official baseball terminology.
That's what they did on Friday. So they kind of took, we see what Omaha did, winning 16-3 on Wednesday. Poor Penn State, by the way, back-to-back games where they gave up 16 and 19, respectively. Nebraska takes care of business, wins 19-5 on Friday, and then kind of held on a little bit. The Saturday game, and I was at the Saturday game. Nebraska was in control. Jace Kaminska was solid on the mound. Gave up a couple of home runs there late in the game. It was 5-0. Nebraska was kind of in cruise control. But yeah, you give up a couple of home runs. The tying run at one point did come to the plate late in the game, but I think for all intents and purposes, Nebraska had that game under control. Great crowd on Saturday. Great crowd yesterday for Senior Day. They win yesterday. So Nebraska does what they're supposed to do. And they swept Penn State. And what they did with a little bit of help from Illinois, they also clinched a spot in the Big Ten tournament. So when you wake up right now and you look at the Big Ten standings, where Nebraska already knows they're in the Big Ten tournament. They are in the field of 8 in Omaha in a little bit more than a week from now. You've got Nebraska sitting currently in a tie for 4th. And you've got Purdue. And if you go back on the history of Nebraska baseball in a year that they did not make the Big Ten tournament in 2022, there's still some feelings about Purdue in a game where they decided not to play. And by not playing that game, it put a nail in Nebraska's coffin of not having a chance to make the Big Ten tournament. Purdue's winning percentage carried them over into the Big Ten tournament. Was it done deliberately, or was it just a matter of circumstances with unpredictable weather? Depends on who you ask. But right now, Purdue needs this weekend because as it stands, Purdue is on the outside looking in. They are tied for the final spots in the Big Ten tournament with Michigan State. They both have identical 10-11 records. And for anybody who thinks, Nebraska, now that they've got it done, they can kind of rest some guys. Well, you know what? No, they're fine. They don't have a midweek game, so you can get plenty of rest this week. It's as most series are, you wrap up your series by Saturday, so these things are starting on Thursday. So Nebraska will be in West Lafayette taking on Purdue. Maybe there's a little piss and vinegar still in the bodies of the head coach. I doubt it.
Like that. A lot of urine in the segment.
It's a lot. But this is an opportunity. If you look at where Nebraska is right now at 13-8, they're tied with Rutgers and Michigan for 4th in the Big Ten. Iowa is only one game heavy of those 3 teams in 3rd. So if Nebraska could duplicate a successful weekend at home and win a series against Purdue, well, first of all, you are most likely eliminating Purdue, which I think would bring some joy to this team, especially guys that were a part of the team a year ago. But how high could you climb? You could potentially see Nebraska as high as a 3 seed, depending on what happens with Iowa, what happens with now in conference play. They are the 3 seed. If it all started today, Iowa would be the 3 seed. But then you've got a logjam at 4th with Rutgers, Nebraska, and Michigan all at 13-8. Now, Nebraska would own a tiebreaker over Michigan if they had identical records because Nebraska won that series against Michigan. So you could see Nebraska anywhere from well, obviously they could be anywhere from 8 to possibly the 3rd seed. They're not going to be a 1 or a 2 because Indiana and Maryland have that pretty much wrapped up, which also, by the way, you got a race to win the regular season right now between Indiana and Maryland, both with identical 15-6 records. Indiana has won 7 in a row. Maryland also playing damn good baseball right now. Iowa, give them credit as well. They are playing very good baseball right now. So if you do look at the probability of trying to maybe overtake Iowa as a 3 seed, more than likely, if you can just hold your own at 4th or the 5th seed, it's a good spot for Nebraska. But the key is we can all of a sudden start talking about where they could go seeding-wise because they clinched a spot in the Big Ten tournament.
Well, it gets to a point where you're just like, well, as long as you're just playing your best baseball, let the seeding take
Right.
care of itself. Just be playing well.
And this is where, in a season where I know a lot of people have been like, okay, what is this team? What's this program? What's its future under Will Bolt and Jeff Christie and Lance Harvell? What I can tell you, if there's any concern that Nebraska is going to be a little sore from patting themselves on their own back over this weekend, I can assure you, if they take the tone of their head coach, this group will be more than ready to try to end the Purdue season. And they can do exactly that. If they were to sweep Purdue, I'd have to look at the Michigan State tiebreaker with Purdue. If they were to sweep Purdue, I believe they would eliminate Purdue. And so this is where I think back to that really exciting 2021 team that Will had in his first full season as the head skipper. That was a group that was pretty cutthroat. That even if they had the whole season wrapped up, which they did going into their final series against Michigan, who was a good team, Nebraska's like, yeah, we just won the regular season. We just qualified for the NCAA tournament because they didn't have a Big Ten tournament. But on Memorial Day weekend, they went ahead and said, you know what? Yeah, we got Michigan coming to our place. Let's go ahead and win that series too against a good team. And they did. And it was fun. And so this team, led by Will Bolt, I don't know how it will go in West Lafayette, but they will be out for blood. This is not a team that's going to take it easy by any stretch. Now, for Creighton, y'all got some work. With a Creighton win, if I have this right, a Creighton win or a Georgetown loss, Creighton is in. Now, Creighton does have UConn. Creighton has been swept back-to-back weekends in Big East play. Don't love the way that Creighton is coming into what should be a huge home weekend against the best team in the Big East right now, UConn. But knowing that your work is not quite done yet. Now, if you had to give me odds on this and say, okay, what do you think is going to happen with Creighton getting into the Big East tournament? I'd say they're still pretty good because Georgetown, I think, at least has one loss in them. Like, Creighton could get swept. If Georgetown loses a game, you've got Creighton in. Creighton wins one game, it's over. So try to take care of business out of the gate. And you're sizing yourself up against a team that you might be facing in the Big East tournament too. If you want to advance out of the Big East tournament and make an NCAA tournament, you're going to have to figure out a way to beat that UConn team. They're going to be there. Feel pretty confident that they're going to be there at some point if you're going to try to make that type of jump. But it's not done yet. And Omaha at one point, who looked like maybe the safest bet to make their respective tournament in the Summit League, Omaha is now also needing a weekend where they have some success. Now, what's good for Omaha, if it all started today, Omaha would get the 4 seed. They are 8-12 in conference play, while Western Illinois is 8-13. So Western Illinois just one game behind them. Now, Omaha had a weird weekend. They had a game that was canceled against North Dakota State and then split.
Did it snow up there again?
It might have. I don't know. God only knows what's going on up there in Grand Forks. It probably could have. There might have been some sleet. Maybe they had an ice storm. I don't know. But so Omaha has Northern Colorado, which is a little bit on the struggle bus this year.
I remember them.
Yep. Western has Oral Roberts. So good luck with that, Western. So again, it looks good for Creighton and Omaha as far as what they have this weekend and the teams that are near them, what they have. But the fact remains they have not locked up a guarantee into their conference tournament just yet. And for Nebraska, a team that has been kind of a mystery and to some degree here in the last month has been somewhat of a disappointment. They're the team that takes care of business over the weekend. They get rewarded with a little help around them. That they go into this weekend not worried about making the conference tournament. So, hey, if there's something to be excited about, you're not having any type of anxiety going into this final weekend against Purdue. So that's good. That's a good thing. Huskers, just kind of probably a good thing that they don't have a midweek game either. Yeah. Up.
Yeah.
Mike,
Well, there we go.
There it is.
See, I did nothing.
It just
so now it's my mic. It was Gary's button before. Now it's my mic.
Just floated over to you.
Yeah. This almost became mornings with Handley.
God help us all. God help us all. So, yep, that's where it stands right now, baseball-wise. And as I mentioned, too, before, Omaha and Creighton will play each other tomorrow, I believe. Yep, it'll be tomorrow.
Weather should be fantastic.
Yes.
Good night for a game.
And I believe no wind
No
either.
wind. No. 77 tomorrow.
And
yeah, we have one great day today, and then we'll have, it's very spring.
Omaha's trying to solidify themselves as state champs again.
Shout out to the Oma Dome on Friday, by the way.
Yeah, yes. You are right. Remember, they had state baseball. Everything was getting moved up in the day because it was going to be nasty, and it was.
Yeah, there are parts of our area.
There were tornado warnings going up like just left and right, north and south, just not in Omaha.
Yeah. So,
but state baseball, by the way, resumes today. So we'll see that. Not great weather today, but as Jenny
any rain that
tomorrow,
falls, it won't be a rain out.
Just a little cooler day. I think it's going to struggle to get to 60.
Yeah.
But then we get good again starting tomorrow. So big weekend for both Omaha and Creighton, and ironically they face each other on the diamond tomorrow. But then it's Nebraska taking on Purdue on Thursday, but a Nebraska team that has already clinched a spot in the Big Ten tournament. All right, as we come back into the 7 o'clock hour, Ja. What is going on, Ja? What is happening? We'll try to explain that.
Yeah, good luck.
Coming up here, 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a significant delay from 175th to 168th on Center. Then on L Street, it looks like things are slowing down just a little bit near 120th. And on Dodge, be prepared for a very minor delay from 80th to 72nd. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Reason 16 to celebrate 30 years of Fernando's.
Of course, a new pair of sandals means tacos. Hey, you don't make the rules.
Winner of first place in 2023's Best of Omaha's Best Mexican Restaurant. Come in and get your Fernando's fix.
At Emprise Bank, we're your partner in possible. And we believe that when we work together, your dreams are achievable, which means prototypes become production lines. Startup plans become expansion plans. And the opportunities you see become the organization you run. Emprise is built for business, which means we're committed to helping you succeed. This is the power of possible. Visit emprisebank.com to learn more.
Ever walk through a door and see all the trucks? Yeah. It's kind of like that at Gretna Auto Outlet. Half-ton trucks, three-quarter-ton trucks, dualies, gas or diesel. Gretna Auto Outlet will be happy to show it to you. They don't call it truck heaven for nothing, you know. Stop in the climate-controlled comfort of the indoor showroom or online with the virtual showroom at GretnaAuto.com. Gretna Auto Outlet, open Sundays too, just north of Nebraska Crossing on Highway 6 in Gretna.
What does Saul's loan on? Almost everything, like jewelry, gold chains, bracelets, earrings, wedding rings, and high-end watches, guns, electronics, $10 to $50,000, super fast and easy with no credit check. Saul's loans on almost everything.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money. so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Fun fact, did you know gorillas burp when they're happy? Really? I'm glad humans don't have that issue, as it would create some awkward moments. Dave and Ryan Osted here with Osted's Golf. Looking for your happiness on the course? Book your fitting appointment today with Osted's, the nation's top 100 fitter from Callaway, Ping, Mizuno, and Golf Digest. Why get fit? On average, golfers gain 19 yards off the tee and drop their handicap by 10%. Wow, results like that will make any golfer happy. Stop in today or book your appointment on Osteds.com. All burps will be taken as a compliment.
Think spring? Think Lanahaw Garden Center. We offer the most complete selection of landscape supplies and plant material for all of your projects. Lanahaw is your one-stop shop for all of your outdoor needs. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Babbel. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at babbel.com/TNC.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day, and they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. Choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long. And with Babbel, it isn't hard. It's perfect.
And now try Babbel for free by texting radio to 64,000. Text radio to 64,000. That's RADIO to 64,000.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Are we playing Metroid right now?
Helps to turn. We're not.
Feel like I'm in a level of Metroid.
Or if it's a pitching coach has come out.
Yeah, there you go. It's kind of Oregon-esque. Maybe this is like, this would be like a video game baseball. Yeah, there you go. Because we got a little Oregon there. Okay. For a while, though, it had a very video game feel to it. And I don't know why Metroid came up. Could have went with Zelda. Just going old school on you.
That's all right.
Hour 2 here. It's there we go. I'll get fired up there. We went from Metroid, Zelda to
that's Tool.
Just get after it Monday. That was good. Hour 2 here, mornings with Sharp and Handley.
There are some
Nick.
people that
There's
appreciate
Jimmy.
that.
I'm sure there is.
I guarantee you they are. They're about our age.
And again, if you missed how we led the show off, Gary not with us for at least a couple of days, mourning the passing of his mother. And again, our thoughts and prayers with Gary at their time of loss and time of mourning. Just very heartfelt tribute to mothers at the end of Friday's show. And again, we just want to send out, again, our thoughts to our friend Gary, who is, again, the passing of his mother is going to be away from the show for a little bit. And
like we said, go back and listen if you get a chance at some point today. It'll really... He has a way of doing that, of kind of beautifully putting something when it's the right thing and the right time to say something.
Right.
His tribute by itself was worth listening to, but when you tie everything together, especially if you've listened to him over the years, have been part of this show, this station, it'll stick with you.
And Don actually took our advice on the J-Tech Construction Zone Twitter feed said, just listen to the last segment from Friday. I don't normally speak for others, but I think I'm safe doing so. And I say from your listeners, give him a giant hug from all of us. Appreciate that, Don. And we are, no doubt. So, again, staple of the show, Gary Sharp. He'll be back soon, but obviously in a difficult time with their family, the loss of his mother. So, again, that is where Gary is, and we will continue to have him in our thoughts. So a guy that we talk about trying to figure out certain entities in sports, whether it be, can you trust the Sixers? And we've learned that we couldn't. Can you trust the Celtics now that they move on to the Eastern Conference Finals?
I still say I don't know.
I don't know that either. Can you trust Nebraska baseball? Can you trust Creighton baseball? Can you trust Omaha baseball? What,
Basically can't trust anybody.
Who can we trust these days? Can you trust Ja Morant? Can you trust Ja Morant right now? Because if you were maybe, I don't know, doing your own thing yesterday, you were disconnected from the sports world, and you're counting on us to update you on what you missed because you were just entrenched in Mother's Day celebrations or whatever you might have been doing this weekend. Memphis has had to suspend Ja Morant from all team activities. Yes, again. And that's the key thing. After a video on Instagram Live showing Ja Morant holding a gun. Grizzlies announced a suspension, which is now pending a league review. In a statement yesterday, 2 months, as you mentioned, Jimmy, 2 months after the NBA suspended Morant over a similar incident. This was their comment. It said, we are aware of the social media post involving Ja Morant and are in the process of gathering more information. That was the NBA's statement. And the Grizzlies ones was short and sweet and said, we are also aware. And Ja Morant is suspended from.
Basically, we're pissed. We're looking into it.
Yeah. And so this, and if anybody, you've seen the video, I got to admit, it took me a couple of watches to spot the gun because I was looking for like the right hand because if you see it, it's kind of like blends in a little bit to like everything going on in this car. But yeah, it's like on the inside hand of the video, and it's very noticeable once you know what you're looking for. I have so many questions about this, Jimmy, because I don't know what it's like to make that type of money at such a young, well, I don't know what it's like to make that type of money, period, but especially at a young age. Where, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago,
student loans.
Do a lot of things. 4 or 5 years ago, until the NCAA tournament, or that real, well, I should say before that, the season that Ja Morant was having at Murray State, you started to hear about the guy. But as far as what people knew about Ja Morant was very little until that year, and then the NCAA tournament, and then subsequently what he was able to do in the NBA. So is it a situation, Jimmy, of too much too fast for Ja Morant as far as the fame, the brand, the money?
It might be because
the maturity or lack thereof right now.
Look at it this way. So we were obviously, we were in Memphis for the Liberty Bowl at the end of December, and the Grizz had a home game against the Suns during that week, and we were going to go, and then we got busy doing other stuff on Beale Street that night. But anyway, point is, we're talking to some locals.
Because you were walking in Memphis.
Oh yeah, that's what I hear.
I get it.
So literally, we were talking to some locals there that love him. Think of the Grizzlies. They went from the grit and grind, the Zach Randolph, those teams, Tony Allen, Mike Conley, and they have this natural handoff to Ja Morant, the new face of the franchise. They got younger. They continued winning, playing good basketball. They've had some success there, obviously, and he's an amazing talent.
Mm-hmm.
So automatically, you come into this league. How often does it work out like this, that you end up to a team and a city that's just wanting to embrace you, and you're put on this pedestal right away? And that's what I kind of think when the first thing happened. It has been too much, too fast. And it's getting to the point now where the Grizzlies are in an awkward position where they're like, do we need to trade him? Now, you got to think how this would hurt the Grizzlies as a team. But in the city of Memphis, where they just look to him, they look at Ja and they've embraced him as like he's one of ours. He represents our city. And therein lies sort of the crux of the issues. They don't want to have to trade him, but they have to do something, because what happens if it goes too far at some point and something does happen? One, for the human being, because you care for the human being, but two, for the business, because it is still business. And what's it do for the franchise? So they're kind of, it's not good. So basically, when they see this and they have to go make the decision to suspend him, you can imagine the brass with the Grizzlies, a lot of really bad words are probably being said, because they're like, come on, you're putting us in a spot where we're like, okay, if we want to continue doing, because they have great players on that team. He's not the only one. You have Jaren Jackson Jr., and he won Defensive Player of the Year. They have some really good pieces on that team. But Ja is still the straw that stirs the drink, and he's awesome on the floor. He's so exciting. And it's been a perfect transition from the previous era in Memphis to this era, that they want to build a championship caliber team. But if you can't trust your superstar, going back to the original question, then at that point you have to start making some tough decisions to some tough questions.
Well, and
you got to look out for the human being, for him.
Well, his 5-year, $194 million max contract is set to begin this coming season. And so I go back to, and remember what he said after they got eliminated by the Lakers. And right now, you kind of look at this as hollow words or word salad, if you will. But he said, I've just got to be better with my decision-making. That's pretty much it. Off-the-court issues affected us as an organization, pretty much just need to be more disciplined, or just need more discipline. And I think the Grizzlies organization has a role in this too, because what was the conversation with Adam Silver and Ja Morant? You know, you have an 8-game suspension. Was that bargained down? Because let's not pretend that the thought of not having Ja Morant in the playoffs would have impacted viewership. And the NBA knew that. The Grizz knew that we need to put out as much content that Ja Morant is taking care of Ja Morant right now. And at the time, some people even thought, boy, 8 games seems like a bit hefty. I was listening to Jay Williams during that time. Jay Williams during that time, by the way, said he and that's it. Jay Williams said he thought it should have been a 20 to 30 game suspension. And people were just teeing off on him, saying, how the hell could you try to impose something like that? And you know what? It does seem a bit harsh, but now we see what has taken place, where Ja Morant spent a couple of days in some type of rehabilitation setting when it came to all of this, the decisions that he has made, the situations that he has put himself in. And it's not just the one he got suspended for. Then there's the pickup game incidents where you're being sued. You know, there's a lot of weird things that have been linked to Ja Morant that he's dealing with that all sort of stem back to questionable decision-making at the very least, and the people you're surrounding yourself with. Like, I have a real tough time believing that as Ja Morant is driving in a vehicle, and his friend, by the way, was Devontae Pack, that was his Instagram account, that his friend is Instagram Live. Clearly, Ja Morant is aware of this. The video has been deleted since, by the way, but is aware of this, and you have a handgun, and you don't seem to have any issue whatsoever the fact that you are donning a handgun in this Instagram Live video. And this is not a Second Amendment issue. This isn't one of those types of topics. This is what the NBA
That's the other station.
is asking you to do, what the NBA is trying to hold you accountable and all of their players accountable with what just took place. And you put out this very, at least what you're hoping is going to be this very strong statement after the season ends about how you're going to handle your offseason and how you are going to go about making decisions. And not even 2 weeks after saying that to a pool of reporters, are you doing this again? And so maybe the first time you could talk about, in some of these incidents over this last year, you could talk about a guy who is still trying to figure things out as an adult, a guy that realizes now he jeopardized some significant financial opportunities with Nike on this first go around. But at some point, something's going to open your eyes and you're going to just sort of grow up and realize, take observation of the company you surround yourself with, the decisions that you make, and you go forward. You are able to do that. This is a situation, in my opinion, of a guy who still can't figure that out. But probably the worst thing right now for both the Grizzlies and for Adam Silver, the Grizzlies and Adam Silver in the NBA. You have now, I'm assuming that they all wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt, if not because of the man you are or what those conversations entailed, the type of player you are. Now you are losing that benefit of the doubt. And when you lose that benefit of the doubt, that's where you talk about major opportunities missed. And for a guy, as you pointed out, Jimmy, I don't think any of us would disagree, is a tremendous talent.
I'm a big fan. I love watching a kid play.
People watch him and you're energized by it. He is a guy that can change the outcome of a game. He has that rare ability. Absolutely is. But at some point, you mentioned the liability factor. And I'll throw the benefit of the doubt. When you start to lose the benefit of the doubt of people who are trying to give you these opportunities, like an Adam Silver, and I don't want to even make it, again, I feel bad saying like the Grizzlies, because I think the Grizzlies also they didn't handle this great the first time around. They could have done more.
Well, it's kind of like they're hoping, well, maybe it'll go away.
I
there's
think
more to it.
Is there some enabling by the Grizzlies organization? I think 100% yes. But now you're in a situation where, okay, this happened how long ago? And it happened again? Like, what the hell are we doing? And more than anything, it's just disappointing. Because of the type of talent that he is, it's very disappointing. And then from a standpoint of a young guy who's got that ability to not only have himself set for life, but generational wealth. You put yourself in positions to where you are in serious jeopardy of losing that. That is so unfortunate. You just want to shake the guy and say, dude, quit hanging out with this guy, or quit hanging out with this guy. When someone is holding a phone in your vicinity, if you have, first of all, I hope you don't have a firearm within reach, but if you do, make sure that is not present on said video. Like, just things of common sense, right? I mean, we're talking common sense here. It's always easy for, people like us who don't have that type of financial opportunity to say what we would do. And I get it. Like, trying to disconnect, like, your boys, your entire network of friends that probably don't have your best interests. They're there for the hang. They're there for we were talking about the crossover. Who would be a good hang? What quarterbacks would be a good hang? These guys are there for the hang. They're not thinking about, well, if this gets out there in social media, how that could impact you. Those are the types of people you need to be around. The people that understand the consequences of such actions. We've all done knucklehead things, and we all have some of our knucklehead friends that are not always out for our best interests, but just out for a good time. If you didn't learn that the first go around with this, you would hope you would learn it the second go around of this. But what we just saw over the weekend begs the question, does Ja Morant get it? And I think the answer, unfortunately, is no. Now, the question that you have to ask, can he ever get it? Remains to be seen, but it's not looking good. It is not looking good. Again, coming up at 8 o'clock, we are going to preview Louisiana Tech on Nebraska's schedule, get their post-spring breakdown with Matt Bellinson, and also going to be talking some hoops. Jacob Bigelow, Joel Renzi in the 9 o'clock hour. But time for our first update with Jimmy. What we got?
What do we got? Oh, wait, I should probably know that.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right. Let me get this loaded up here. Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Nebraska baseball is here last hour. They sweep Penn State. They beat them 8-5 yesterday at Hawks Field. Huskers are 29-20. They'll hit the road for the final series of the regular season We told you a couple months ago, it goes by really fast. They venture to West Lafayette to take on the Boilermakers of Purdue, a 3-game series. It begins on Thursday. Nebraska softball has been selected for the NCAA Regional in Stillwater, and they will play Wichita State, who's 43-10. That'll be Friday night at 6. Oklahoma State's 41-14. They are the tournament's number 6 overall seed, and they will host UMBC, who comes into that 26-15. Friday will be the third meeting between Nebraska and Wichita State just this season. Sunday's selection marks Nebraska's 26th NCAA tournament appearance in program history. This is the Huskers' 22nd NCAA tournament appearance under head coach Ronda Revelle. For the first time in the Division I era, the Omaha Mavericks softball team are Summit League champions after they defeat South Dakota State in the Summit League title game. With the postseason tournament victory, of course, that means they clinched their first D1 NCAA tournament berth in program history. They'll be calling Baton Rouge, where the third-seeded Mavs will open the regional against Louisiana 46-13 club that won the Sun Belt regular season and tournament titles. Host LSU opens against Prairie View. Bob Stoops is a champion again. Oh, yes, he is. On Saturday night in San Antonio, Stoops coached the Arlington Renegades to the 2023 XFL title by upsetting the DC Defenders 35-26. This is the first football championship a DFW team has won since January of 1996, when another professional football team there won the Super Bowl. The Renegades finished.
Who was that? Who was that team?
No one's.
Was that an XFL team?
Yeah,
No?
I mean, there's been years they kind of play like it.
Okay.
9-8 forever.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry,
8-9.
the Bears had the first round pick or first draft pick for a reason.
I always used to tweet hashtag 8-8 forever.
Now
I
you got
guess
to change
it-
that.
yeah.
Now you got that 17 game thing.
8-1. The Renegades finish.
I like it.
They finished the season 4-6. The Defenders were 9-1. Arlington came into that game as an 8.5-point dog. Hey, on this day 20 years ago, first we get to that, NBA Conference Finals are set beginning tomorrow night, the Western Conference. It'll be the Lakers and the Nuggets as the Lakers dethrone the champion Warriors Friday night, blew them out, wasn't even close in the second half. And the Nuggets, of course, well rested after defeating the Suns in 6 games. Eastern Conference begins Wednesday night. Philadelphia fails to show up for most of the game. They just Cancun their way through the second half. Boston wins by a lot. Jason Tatum scores 51 points. Miami and Boston again in the conference finals. A little different this year than in past years, but in the end, it ends up Celtics and Heat once again. That begins in Boston on Wednesday night. And that ties into the other thing going on tomorrow night. On this day 20 years ago, the 3-year championship reign of the Los Angeles Lakers ends. I remember this well. Tim Duncan has 37 points and 16 rebounds. Tony Parker added 27 to help the San Antonio Spurs overpower and embarrass the Lakers on national TV, 110-82 to win their Western Conference semifinal series, 4-2. Many NBA fans will remember this. Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, and Derek Fisher were crying on the bench as the game ended. The Spurs would go on to defeat the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals in 6 games before winning the franchise's second NBA championship over the New Jersey Nets, also in 6 games. And tomorrow night, the Spurs will hope to win the NBA draft lottery for the first time since 1997 when they won the rights to draft Hall of Famer Timmy Duncan.
You mentioned Omaha softball. Congrats.
That's a cool story.
That is. Mike Hurd, who is now in his second season as the head coach for the Omaha softball team. Last year, they finished at 32-14. So you could kind of see this thing coming. They had their most conference wins since 2011 with 17 a year ago. So now to see them take it one step further in just year 2 under Mike Hurd's watch, big congratulations to the Omaha softball team. That is awesome. And of course, Ronda Revelle, knowing that it wasn't a guarantee going into the Big Ten tournament that they were going to get into the NCAA tournament, and obviously they do not repeat as champions. Congrats to Northwestern. They do just enough to get into the NCAA tournament. So a big congrats to both Ronda Revelle, but also especially for the Omaha softball team for the first time in D1, in their D1 position, now going to the NCAA tournament. That is awesome. When we return, we've got some recruiting news. A return home for one Scott fullback who, interestingly enough, we were talking about on Friday when we were chatting with Vers, will be making his return to Nebraska as a walk-on, but also a tweet by Dan Orlovsky.
Oh, tweets.
Has some people now again back in the roller coaster of what to think. And are you at the point right now that you just don't care anymore? And that's no disrespect to the impact that a Dylan Raiola could have, but have you sort of already conceded that, yeah, we get it, we're not going to probably win this battle? We'll get into that more.
Well, I mean, that's what can you do at this point?
That's the big question. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Mornings with Sharp and Handley.
I'm running, Herbie. Don't you hear them boots? Like
I
the
will join you.
mascots in the ground. How it walks along to a good old song for the sons of Nebraska. Harry Herbie. Now it's coming. Look at that furry thing is abound. It's Herbie Husker. He's back. He's gold. He's got a corn cob in his pocket. Overalls, overalls. Bravo.
Very good. Very good.
And I have my next promo.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Canoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A cool and wet start to the week Monday. Expect light rain through the morning and early afternoon, then drying out by the evening. Otherwise cloudy and cool with highs in the upper 50s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
Are you sick of spring allergies and itchy contacts? Get rid of them today at KuglerVision.com.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have a couple of accidents to report, starting with one that has a left lane block westbound along I-80 at 42nd Street, and that's going to be backed up all the way to 24th Street, where it's some stop-and-go traffic, and you can expect delays of up to 5 minutes in that area. Then there's also an accident to report westbound along I-80 at I Street. That's going to be backed up all the way to 84th, where you can expect delays of up to 5 minutes with stop-and-go traffic in that area as well. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
What does Saul's loan on? Almost everything, like tools, instruments, designer handbags, construction equipment, vehicles, trailers, appliances. $10 to $50,000 super fast and easy with no credit check. Saul's loans on almost everything.
Hi again, everybody. Kent Pavelka courtside, getting ready for hail season with the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. When hailstones fall, be sure to make the right call. Just one call to the experts at John Higgins Weather Guard to work directly with your insurance provider. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau for the highest level of customer service. There are so many reasons, so many fans have used the winning team for their roof at John Higgins Weather Guard. Remember, when hailstorms fall, make the right call. The Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Did you know the Salvation Army has thrift stores conveniently located around the Omaha metro area, and each one has bargains you won't find anywhere else? Come in today for deals on clothing, accessories, furniture, kitchenware, and more. Stop by, get a great deal, and make a big difference for people in need. For a list of store locations, just go to salarmyomaha.org. That's salarmyomaha.org. Thanks for your support.
Watching a ball game at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is pretty awesome. Oscar's offers the MLB package, so your team is always on their upgraded audio-video system, and nothing is better than watching the game with a cold frosty one, Oscar's Pizza, or award-winning char-buffed wings. And with daily lunch and dinner specials, it's really an 162nd in Maple.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
I thought it was a very timely conversation that we had with Matt Verzal on Friday. And Sharpie had asked him the question, as we were kind of talking about Notre Dame and some of the success that they've had in the Omaha area. And Sharpie had asked Verz about former Omaha Scott standout, who we were curious on what his status was at Notre Dame. And that was Barrett.
Yeah, and then he
Liebentritt.
tricked me. I thought it was.
Yeah,
we had another...
then Verz thought like, whenever he kept saying, I can't hear you guys. Can't hear you guys.
It's always something.
Yeah.
Phone's not working.
Verz, that's sneaky guy. But he knew that Barrett had entered the transfer portal. It had not been made official. Now, again, this was all like Friday late morning as we were wrapping stuff up in the 9 o'clock hour. And then you find out not too long after that, yes, it is official that Liebentritt is in the transfer portal, but then he is also heading back home. He's going to play for the Big Red as a walk-on. He was listed as a tight end for Notre Dame, played in, handful of games, special team, strictly special team, and will be making the move to, what do we love? What do we covet here in Nebraska? Fullback. Yeah. So he's very intrigued on how Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield are utilizing the fullback. And this also kind of brings up an interesting question of Nebraska. You talk about the bounce backs a lot. And so now you have a local kid, Omaha Scott standout, but also a guy who spent his early part of his college career in South Bend, now coming back to Lincoln and doing so because of the opportunity to play fullback. And as we know in college football, the art of the fullback, or as we like, and I say we, you and I, because we're kind of in that same generation of the big bruising fullback, straight ahead, quick hitters, or being the lead blocker in an I formation, however you want to call it.
You're gonna get me all hot and bothered here. I'm gonna take this hoodie off.
This is what we get excited about. But what you should get excited
Keep
about,
your 5 wide receivers over there.
Yeah, come on, load them up. What we should be excited about is the creativity that Marcus Satterfield seems to show when it does come to that position. I mean, Janiran Bonner is a perfect example of why I think it could be one of the more interesting ways that Nebraska recruits either that position, or when you see somebody being recruited under the position or title as athlete, on how they might be used. Because Janiran Bonner committed to Nebraska, came to Nebraska last year, really in the 11th hour, and was most likely going to be a very strong candidate to get in the mix early at the wide receiving position based on his accolades. Well, he goes through a year of, kind of the nutrition that you see at college football players, college student athletes go through. The coaching staff for Nebraska and Matt Rule, they see a guy that they feel like, given his size, given his ability, this could be a dude that we can put in not only that sort of that hybrid position of a tight end, but he's got wide receiving skills and speed to become a matchup on the outside. We can bring him in the slot. We can also use him as a guy that's going to put his hand in the ground, but also we can let him carry the football. He can be a fullback. So how they recruit to that is going to be interesting. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to project how Barrett Liebentritt's commitment to Nebraska as a walk-on as the fullback will impact it. But I think it in more of a large discussion on the future of recruiting sort of that hybrid position, I think is going to be really interesting. So that was good news for Nebraska. And based on what Verse said too, a guy that if you want to play the physical game, if you want to be sort of in the man sport type feel of like, hey, this is big boy football. As Verse, a guy who has seen him, a guy who obviously spends time coaching his gut, understood, and I would take his breakdown on any player, especially a guy that he coached more so than most. He said he's not going to shy away from that type of football, which is good. I think, well, obviously, not only playing in the Big Ten, but also playing that position.
And just in general, the culture you're trying to build.
Yes, right. And so that was interesting to hear. Then if you were paying attention over the weekend, and this, I'll get to the question of how much are you paying attention anymore now. But if you're paying attention over the weekend, you heard rumors that Dylan Raiola was going to be making an official visit to Nebraska in June. Now, Dylan Raiola making an official visit to Nebraska is kind of laughable at this point because he's been here enough. He can come here anytime he wants to. He can visit.
Yeah, his family that works there.
Yeah, Uncle Donnie. There's all kinds of ways that he can make his way to Lincoln. And what are you going to show Dylan at this point that you haven't already shown? That's my question. What are you going to – and I'm not saying what other schools haven't shown, but my point is he's been here enough. So I didn't get that tingly feeling inside when I heard rumors that –
Well, that's why Shafe penned it the Raiola coaster.
And it is. But then last night, did Dan Orlovsky let the cat out of the bag a little bit? Sends out a tweet last night saying, hearing big things happening in Athens. Now, he did delete the second part of that tweet, but what he did say after that, and this is the part that's been deleted, said, most talented player at the position since Stafford. So clearly he's not talking about center. He's not talking about OLB. He's talking about your QB. Well, then you start kind of connecting the dots and like, okay, well, obviously he's talking about quarterback. Obviously he's probably talking about the number one quarterback in the 2024 class. And then you go back to his playing days with Detroit and another significant member of the Raiola family also playing in Detroit, in Dominic. So is there some type of inside line there? Were they talking and maybe Orlovsky was privy to some information with the hopes that he would not make that public and accidentally did? Because what was more sort of alarming is that he did like right away delete the part of that tweet that says the most talented player at the position since Stafford. Look.
It could be anybody.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows who he's talking about? The bottom line is, I don't know how you feel about it, Jimmy. I've moved on. And I think a lot of Nebraska fans.
Well, you have to, because there's a lot of things to be excited about.
Well, and I don't want to make it sound like.
Right now.
I don't want to make it sound like, oh, to hell with that kid. If he doesn't want to be here, we don't want him. No, sure.
No, I know what you mean.
You want him. You already knew. First of all, he committed to Ohio State before. And so you thought, okay, well, too bad. Would have been cool, but oh well, that's where he's going. And then when he decommitted and you had the excitement of a new coaching staff and that seemed like that relationship had been sort of renewed, that, hey, okay, we've got an opportunity. And look, however this thing shakes out, and I guess the old adage, it's not over till it's over, even though I think it's over. However it shakes out, the way that I will look at these moments when it comes to recruiting is there something that Nebraska could have done more? And I know now with the NIL element, everybody's going to say, well, did we empty the bank for them?
That's the go-to.
Yeah, but
honestly, I think a lot of it is what they could have done is they could fast forward 2 or 3 years. That's it. If you got things rolling and you're winning now,
yeah,
it becomes a different deal because they'll put together a nice package from that. I don't think that's the issue. You have a great fan base, great tradition, great everything there. So you have that going for you. But a lot of it that this is just my opinion, which means nothing, that if you're recruiting against them right now, you'd be like, well, why do you want to go over there? They haven't done this. They haven't done
yeah.
Everything is we're going to at Georgia. It's look what we have done.
Right.
Look what we did. And that's fine. But if you're saying what are the only things they could do differently, it would be to fast forward like 3 years. If you fast forward 3 years, you probably have the train rolling by that point. Otherwise, that's a different discussion and a whole different can of worms. And then you can say, look what we're doing. Did you see what we're doing? And it becomes more not the vision, it becomes more of what's in front of you.
Well, and that's more than anything, the whole, maybe the most.
And I don't take what you're saying as, oh, I'm giving, it doesn't matter. I take it more as, hey, if it happens, great. That's awesome.
But you cannot.
If not, we'll be okay too.
You cannot be so desperate to land a guy and go all in with no backup plan. And I just have a tough time believing that this staff were putting all of their eggs into that basket. And that doesn't mean that they were half-assing their recruiting efforts. We know that is definitely not the case. The reason that Dylan Raiola, I think, is strongly or was strongly considering Nebraska is because of the efforts that this coaching staff put in, the relationship that they were able to build quickly with the Raiola family in such a quick time, and also obviously having Donovan on staff doesn't hurt. But I think that relationship has been built. Again, you think maybe into the future, bounce back. We talk about that all the time. But if you're wondering, Nebraska dropped the ball in some area, I've seen no signs of that whatsoever. But I also feel very confident in saying that if we've all go play college football, bet that the coaching staff has to, that they are going to their next plan in how they want to bring in young quarterbacks. Now, is there a quarterback out of the high school market that they're looking to bring in 2024? Well, we haven't seen anything definitive on that. But are they going to play maybe the transfer portal game here for the time being until they can get that stud out of high school? Then yeah, maybe. That whatever their plan is, though, I guarantee you this coaching staff was not, okay, it's Dylan or bust. If we don't get Dylan, then we're
then you'd worry.
Then we're kind of flapping in the wind. Because that would sort of make me wonder, do they have a true feel of the perception of where this program is and the realistic opportunities that they have to build this program? But that would also lead me to think, okay, are you that disorganized? None of those things, I feel, even remotely reflect this coaching staff based on what we've seen. So it isn't a situation, whether Orlovsky's tweet is foreshadowing the inevitable or not, and it probably is. That's how I feel. He's probably not coming here. And I'm okay with that, as long as his coaching staff has a plan in place. Not to find the next, say, Dylan Raiola, but they have a plan in place to provide great competition at that position to where they can develop a guy that is going to be their next dude after Sims. And that's all it comes down to. And if, hey, a couple of years that Dylan is not happy at Georgia or it's not working out or there's something going on, you provided a really good recruiting pitch.
And this is
a relationship to where maybe, just maybe, that will pay off in the long run. Not saying that that's what you need to hope for now, because I don't know about you, Jimmy. I hope wherever Dylan goes, and it's probably Georgia, I hope he's successful, and I wish him all the best. But if it doesn't work out, I also feel very good that this coaching staff did things the right way, that he would see a potential good fit coming back to Nebraska. Not coming back because he's not from here, but making a return trip to Lincoln, not on an official visit, but maybe as a football player down the road.
Well, you and Gary talked about this a few weeks ago, playing the bounce back. And that's what you end up doing instead of, previous people that were in that position. You don't be like, well, screw him, blah, blah. He didn't want to be. It's more, okay, we understand. Good luck. We're behind you. We're rooting for you. And if it doesn't work out, just remember we're here and we'll always be here.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll open up this dialogue again. And that's what you do. You wish people well and do things the right way. And that's with any quarterback or any player that you end up losing here that go to other school. Like you talked about Gary talked about the Zane Flores deal.
Yep.
You went over to, yes, you forged a relationship.
Where a kid might be thinking, you're going to try to hard sell me on why I should decommit to Oklahoma State
nope,
and come to you. Like,
nope.
no.
Congratulating you. Hey, great season. Congratulations to you and your family. Good luck to you.
Yeah, just want to say this is who I am, And I just wanted to introduce myself to you. Wanted to say, sorry I wasn't around. I probably would have recruited you, but more than anything, congratulations.
We would have been honored to be in that process.
Congratulations.
If we were here.
Go and play some big boy football at Oklahoma State. Wish you nothing but the best.
And if for some reason it doesn't work out, then you're like, you know what? Those people were classy people.
Right.
It's all about relationship building. And it may never, it may never come to anything, but you'd be like, you know what? We know that. That's a good kid. We like him. Yeah, he's doing great things.
They get that.
They'll do that with Raiola if that's what happens. And if it doesn't work out, because you have to, that's the era that you're in now. So that if you need to go in the portal and get somebody, any player, and it works in any of the sports with the portal, that you'll be like, you know what? We have a relationship, but also for the kid, they're like, I liked these people. I'm going to call them because I'm looking for somewhere and they were good to me.
Now, after a dialogue that you and I just had of, it's okay to move on. Coaching staff they'll be fine. They've got plan B, C, and D. They'll find a way to develop a quarterback here in the future. Now I'm going to dangle a carrot. I'm not going to. Well, if we want to take the Orlovsky tweet as foreshadowing that he knows something and it's just a matter of when it's going to be official. Okay. But I will remind you, in year 2 of Scott Frost in 2019, the year 2 was supposed to be the year that was going to pop. Yeah, everybody remembers year 2 at Central Florida for Scott Frost and the run that they had. And they had actually, that 2019 season seemed to have a little bit more of a more manageable schedule, if you will. Dan Orlovsky did say his dark horse team to make the college football playoff was Nebraska. So that's where Dan was wrong. So Dan can be wrong, like all of us. Just saying. If you're hoping that Dan's tweet is not gospel, well, there you go. Just giving you an example where he took a big swing and a miss when he thought Nebraska would be a dark horse to make the college football playoff.
It's a reminder. It's Twitter.
It is. But it's got a lot of reaction.
It's for entertainment purposes.
You know what? Without it being official one way or the other, if that's the closure you need, then so be it. It is what it is.
Don't worry about Matt Rule. He's living his best life. He had a fun Saturday night.
He was at Kenny Chesney.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
I saw the picture.
I was wondering if he was at the baseball game Saturday when I was there, but then I realized, oh, yeah, there's that big concert going on. Why am I doing the PA to begin with? Oh, yeah, because I'm filling for a guy who went to the Chesney concert, and that's probably where Matt Rule is.
That's okay. They played inspired baseball.
They did. They probably did it for Kenny.
Yeah. You can always listen to him in the car on the way there and back.
I absolutely can.
I'm sure you did a hell of a job. Will's thankful that Handley came in out of the bullpen to provide that extra foot in the ass. And
don't know where he played last year, but I'm sure he did a hell of a job. All right, some more.
Monty Haywood's a convicted felon, isn't he?
We got more college baseball, a little bit more college football to get into as well. But again, though, coming up at 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be breaking down the spring that was for Louisiana Tech as we continue to do our post-spring breakdowns of the Nebraska opponents of 2023. So today we dial in on Louisiana Tech. Matt Bellinson will be joining us in just about 10 minutes here on 1620 The Zone. All right, DJ's Dugout is the perfect place for spring because whether you're traveling around with that select baseball team, softball team, or whatever you're doing, and you've got the whole gang with you, bring them to DJ's Dugout. First of all, you're going to see every game, and I mean every game, whether we're talking about Major League Baseball, talking about NHL or NBA postseason, it's right there on that amazing media display that you have at all DJ's Dugout locations, but also great daily food and drink specials, including today. One of my favorite days at DJ's Dugout is 25% off all burgers. That's right, 25% off all burgers. And again, check it out every day. There are great daily food and drink specials. 7 metro area locations. Vietnam veteran, locally owned, DJ's Dugout. Dig in at the Dugout.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. The best way to catch all the action is on 1620 The Zone. And no line for the bathroom.
Dr. Rick here. Another sign you're becoming your parents is getting particular about details that don't matter.
The craziest thing happened when we got tacos the other day. Was it Wednesday or Thursday we got tacos? I know it wasn't Tuesday because that's when I went to my hairdresser. Shoot, what day was it?
See how we all lost interest there?
Progressive can't help you from becoming your parents, but we can help you compare rates on home insurance with Home Quote Explorer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath. Stomach issues? Lower back pain? How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Peerless Energy Systems is Nebraska and Iowa's locally owned and operated authorized solar air compressor distributor. Peerless Energy Systems provides products and solutions for compressed air systems, helping companies in manufacturing, food processing, transportation, auto body repair, car dealers, and more. Driving industry efficiency through service, support, and relationships, let Peerless Energy Systems help you increase efficiency with your compressed air systems today. PeerlessEnergy.com.
Attention sales professionals. NRG Media is looking for an accomplished business-to-business salesperson who wants to take their success and skills to a new level. Is this you? Our account executives work with local businesses to create marketing plans to help them get more customers. On air, digital, on-site, audio, video, it's all part of what you could sell. A sales career with NRG lets you make a real difference. Get more info and apply online at nrgmedia.com. NRG Media is an equal opportunity employer.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Kugler Vision. Let us talk about the 3 most surprising things about modern LASIK at Kugler Vision. The first, how fast that LASIK procedure is. With Kugler Vision's leading edge technology, we're talking just a few minutes per eye. Incredibly speedy. And how about this for number 2? How comfortable the procedure is. So often from their patients, they hear, wait, that's it? It's over? They make sure that you're relaxed and comfortable, as well as knowing exactly what is happening. And this, for number 3, how quickly you can get back to normal life. Patients typically drive themselves to Kugler Vision the very next day for their follow-up visit. So you're back in action less than 24 hours later. Kugler Vision right now, they have special pre-summer savings on modern LASIK or any of their other advanced vision correction procedures. If you've ever thought about fixing your bad vision, the Kugler Vision Eye Analysis is your first step. Do so today. Schedule one online at KuglerVision.com.
Your exclusive home for Royals baseball in Omaha. Right up the middle, basin, and the Royals are winner. 1620, The Zone.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
For another Woodhouse Wednesday on 1620 The Zone. This Wednesday, May 17th, get entered to win a fishing gear prize pack. It includes a Yeti soft cooler, tackle box, and some Woodhouse swag. Plus, when you win a Woodhouse Wednesday prize pack, you'll be entered to win the grand prize of $2,600. Get all the details right now at 1620thezone.com.
Dope. We're going to be talking Louisiana Tech football in just about 5 minutes from now. As the Huskers, we did jump ahead of, not that we're dismissing Northern Illinois, but sometimes it becomes an availability situation. So
That's all it is.
we had a Louisiana Tech representative, Matt Bellinson.
We don't need any bulletin board
That's
material
right.
in DeKalb.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? They just stepped over Northern Illinois. They're going right to Louisiana Tech, and they're breakdown in Omaha Radio. Man, what the hell? That's disrespect, man. No, we're going to be talking Northern Illinois this week as well. Michigan this week. Some Illinois this week as well, as we get into the 2023 Husker opponent post-spring preview.
A little football weather today.
It is.
50s.
You know what I really
sprinkly.
appreciated for so many other reasons than just this, having Sean Keeler on, because I don't care what you think of Sean. He's entertaining. The fact that
He doesn't care what you think either. He'd probably
Right.
agree with you.
Most of these sort of post-spring analysis or breakdowns that we're getting into, you're going to get a lot of personnel conversation. You're going to get a lot of content about, oh, so-and-so had a really big year last year. You know, what's the next step forward this year? Or how's so-and-so coming off the injury and all of that. You didn't get that with Colorado because we don't know. You just don't know. Like, I think we know who's going to be playing quarterback with Shadari Sanders, but no wide receiver. But other than that, and a DB. Other than that, it's like, I don't know. What we see on the roster right now could look completely different, and it already has. So the Colorado one was a little bit more of an outlier as far as the opponent post-spring previews. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what La Tech has when that group comes to
Well, what is it? He
Lincoln
said
on
it's
the
like having a
23rd.
Kardashian coaching your football team. I
Yeah.
mean, that's if you're doing the media thing there, there's nothing short of good material to talk about. But Shafe had an interesting point on Friday. He said they talk about them and him a lot more outside of Colorado than in Colorado, which is about right.
Yep.
But when it comes time to it, they'll have plenty of stuff to dig into there. And thus, it's a success what they've done at Colorado because, once again, radio station in Omaha on May 15th is spending time talking about Colorado and Deion Sanders.
Remember the disgraced former Ohio State assistant coach, Zach Smith, who put out the was it a tweet or was it on his podcast? I'm trying to even remember. It might have been both, that Deion Sanders had been offered from Nebraska. Can you imagine just for a moment? Like, I've really enjoyed the Matt Rule coverage. I've enjoyed hearing him talk. I've enjoyed now seeing him go through his first spring. There's a lot to take away from just a media standpoint of covering Matt Rule. And, to maybe a smaller degree, his coaching staff too. But can you imagine for a moment what it would have been like here if Deion was the coach? I can't wrap my head around.
We probably would have had a line of people be like, do you guys have any jobs? Because we'd like to get on the radio and talk.
It's just, wow. It would have been quite the scene.
I think all our message boards our guys that run and write they might have quit. Or then again, it'd be the easiest money ever because they'd be like, I'm getting paid by the article here and I'm rich.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm envious, but I kind of am from the reason that I tune into reality TV every now and then. Just want to see what it's all about. Like, okay, is this is what we're going to get? What twists and turns are going to take this time? Like, it just so much fascination of how this will come together in Boulder. But I don't think we'll have the same type of conversation when we talk to Matt Bellinson, who joins us to talk some Louisiana Tech football.
He's an Iowa State grad.
Okay, even better. We can maybe get his thoughts on Matt Campbell, too.
Yeah. Said Omaha. He's probably like, hey, all right, I know Omaha.
There it is. All right, that is coming up next here on Mornings with Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone. Hey, Woodhouse Mazda has got it, and that is the Mazda CX-90. That has hit the lots at both Woodhouse Mazda and Woodhouse Place Mazda. The first ever Mazda CX-90 is Mazda's flagship 3-row SUV. Available second-row captain's chairs and middle console second-row passengers can experience the same comfort and amenities as the first row. But if you're like me and you need a little bit of that room, maybe the captain's chair don't work out when you have, say, a pup that is coming with you on some of your travels, well, they also have the option for a bench seat in the second row, and that can seat up to 8 passengers in that vehicle. The available panoramic moonroof allows passengers to take in the outside scenery and the comfort of the vehicle as well. No, did I mention the power of the engine? Yeah, you're going to notice that too. Check it out now at woodhousemazda.com or woodhouseplacemazda.com or in their showroom in Bellevue or off of 144th and Giles in West Omaha. And right now you can get 3.9% APR for 36 months or 4.9% APR for 60 months on a 2024 Mazda CX-90 with approved credit, tax, title, license, extra when financed with Mazda Financial. $299 doc fee due at signing. Offer expires 5/31/2023. See dealer for complete details. Chat with a sales team member online and easily schedule a test drive. Check vehicle availability and more. Woodhouse Mazda, a drive worth experiencing.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain, time-saving traffic center. We're still getting reports of that accident that has the left lane blocked westbound along I-80 at 42nd Street, and you can expect delays of up to 5 minutes in that area. And we're also still getting reports of that accident along the right shoulder of I-80 westbound at I Street. That's going to be backed up all the way to 72nd Street, and you can now expect delays of up to 10 minutes in that area. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Reason 1206 to celebrate 30 years of Fernando's.
You finally figured out how to use your coffee grinder.
Winner of first place in 2023's Best of Omaha's Best Mexican Restaurant. Come in and get your Fernando's fix.
Do you know the common signs of transmission trouble?
Your engine revs before falling into gear. Shifting is rough, or you're leaking reddish-brown fluid.
Knowing the signs could mean repair instead of replace.
That's where we come in. We're certified transmission.
The job done right at the right price.
Ever walk through a door and see all the trucks? Yeah, it's kind of like that at Gretna Auto Outlet. Half-ton trucks, three-quarter-ton trucks, dualies, gas or diesel. Gretna Auto Outlet will be happy to show it to you. They don't call it truck heaven for nothing, you know. Stop in the climate-controlled comfort of the indoor showroom or online with the virtual showroom at GretnaAuto.com. Gretna Auto Outlet, open Sundays too, just north of Nebraska Crossing on Highway 6 in Gretna.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Babbel. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at babbel.com/TNC.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day, and they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. Choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
And now try Babbel for free by texting radio to 64,000. Text radio to 64,000. That's RADIO to 64,000.
Howdy, folks. Greg Wagner joining you from the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Time now for another Nebraska Outdoor Update. Bloop. Did you know there's some fun open water fishing to be had this time of year? There is. In our cold water, northern and western Nebraska trout streams, wonderful spring-fed waters, support mainly rainbow and brown trout, and you could even work on your Trout Slam Challenge in those. Get more details at outdoornebraska.org. That's outdoornebraska.org. Turning to the state parks, there's nature to experience. The playgrounds, campgrounds, and trails are all open, and be sure to check out the naturalist programs at state parks as well. For spring wild turkey hunting this year here in Nebraska, hunters take note, there are some major changes because of lower bird numbers. See us at the Game and Parks Commission for more information. That'll wrap it up for now. I'm Greg Wagner with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission.
Buckle up. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship returns to Omaha at Liberty First Credit Union Arena Friday, May 19th. In the main event, your undefeated hometown star, Houston the Assassin Alexander, throws down with the always dangerous Jeremy Pitbull Smith. Also, see Dakota Cochran fight Noah Cutter, Sean P-Town Wilson versus Brandon Meyer, Jade Wong versus Taylor Killer B. Starling, and many more bare knuckle fights. Get your tickets now at bkfc.com.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis. The temperatures are rising, which means plenty of chances for you to get to the golf course just north of Dodge on 120th Street and play some golf, whether it is outside a full 18, inside the Top Tracer building, schedule a bachelor or a bachelorette party, you can do it all. Don't forget about work outings as well. You could put together a large scramble there at the golf course. They're located just north of Dodge on 120th Street, Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per-ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now Becca Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Do you hate when the computer freezes?
Oh, I hate a lot of things with computers.
All right.
Yeah, that's one of them.
It's halftime, and it's brought to you by Hearth Cigars and Pipes Lounge, just off 680 and 48th Street next to Cubby's. It's Hearth Cigars and Pipes Lounge.
Halfway home on a Monday. It is Mornings with Sharp and Handley, along with Jimmy Chavez. Appreciate you making us part of your morning. Going to be talking some Louisiana Tech football here in just a moment with Matt Bellinson covering La Tech for the Ruston Leader. As a team that is looking to mightily improve from what was a down year for Louisiana Tech. Now, every time I think of Louisiana Tech, Troy Edwards, Tim Rattay, and Troy Edwards. Now, from what I understand with Louisiana Tech, they do not have. They won't be playing it. I don't believe that they have any relation on the team that could strike horror in Nebraska fans' memory. So that's good. I'm okay with that. But
it was warm that day too.
It was, and I remember very few times did we ever see Mike Brown or Ralph Brown get victimized by a certain team. I mean, those guys were some of the best DBs you've ever seen.
They were really damn good.
And I remember that game, and Nebraska won, but the video game numbers that the Louisiana Tech offense put up was just absurd. But I just remember Troy Edwards talking about, and maybe it wasn't even Troy Edwards, maybe it might have been one of the Browns, saying at one point Troy Edwards, as he made one of the many catches for touchdowns that he had that day, as he was running by and on his way to the end zone, you could actually hear him laughing because it was becoming kind of elementary that day. That is forever the image I will have of Louisiana Tech football.
Well, because nobody did that really in general that day, but nobody did that to Nebraska.
Right.
It wasn't like these guys were bad. They were great players, and that defense that continued to grow, and that led, of course, the next year in the '99 team, which Gary talked about and I agree with him. That's a team that almost gets forgotten. That nobody wanted anything to do with them at the end of the year, and if it wasn't for a bad day in Austin, Frank might have had a national championship that year. Everyone talks about 01. That 99 team was really good. So you mentioned and even thinking about the fact that they play La Tech this year, 25 years later, I still think of that day. I remember watching that.
I think a lot of Nebraska fans remember that because, and I would say
I always think of the people that sat underneath the stands where they had that fence, and they were talking about it on the broadcast, how hot it was on the field. So imagine how hot it was in there, and you have concrete above you, and you have that AstroTurf down there. Yeah, it was a warm day.
Anytime, it's kind of funny, you think about those moments that didn't happen a lot, but anytime any team came in and had success, and it might not even be success to the tune of a victory, because that was a game that ultimately Nebraska won, because as good as their offense, Louisiana Tech's offense was, their defense was going to be no match for the physicality of Nebraska. But I always remember those performances, say the Rattay and Edwards connection will, I think, live in infamy when it comes to Nebraska fans. But also, when Dante Culpepper in Central Florida came here.
Yeah.
They were able to have a little bit of success. So there were those moments too where it's okay, and again, teams that maybe pushed Nebraska for a little bit, but ultimately ended up losing. Yeah, I'm looking at that, the Louisiana Tech performance. That was in 1998. That was a season opener.
Yep.
And you're talking about Bobby Newcomb as the starting quarterback. The fact that, Nebraska still had a pretty sizable lead in that game, but you had this game at one point was 35-21. And on that day, Edwards had set an NCAA record with 405 yards receiving on 21 catches. 405 yards receiving.
Yeah, that's like some Texas Tech stuff under Mike Leach.
Oh, my.
Rest in peace.
And Rattay threw 68 passes in that game. 46 of 68 for 590, which also shows you, do you have any other receivers?
Hey, if the guy's hot.
Out of a 500, I know, you find the hot hand, and they did. And hey, when you can't, it's like, Trey Palmer going to be down there somewhere. Same thing with Troy Edwards. It's like the guy's going to be down there somewhere. But he was 46 of 68, Tim Rattay was, for 590 yards, where Troy Edwards accounted for 405 of those yards. And the previous NCAA mark before Edwards got the 405 was 363 by a player from UNLV. Oh yes, though, and then in part of the breakdown, and and then Correll Buckhalter rushed for a career high of 143 yards that day. It's like, that happened.
Him.
And normally,
those running backs they had then,
143 yards on the ground is, it's nothing to thumb your nose at, but that sort of paled in comparison to what you had going on with that Louisiana Tech offense. Unfortunately for Louisiana Tech, they couldn't stop anybody either. But man, that was insane. That was just stupid. Oh yeah, that's my La Tech memory right there. Always will be. Is when they flat out had it going on offensively. It was fun to watch. And as long as Nebraska ended up winning the game, and it was still decisive, and Nebraska still put up 56 points. And here's the other thing, with all that offense, with 590 yards in the air and a receiver who had 405 yards on 21 catches, am I wrong to say, and you only scored 27 points? Because they did. They scored 27 points. That was it. I mean, I would think if you gave me that stat line right there, like, oh, yeah, you're definitely in the 40s. Well, they only scored 27. So I guess Nebraska defensively, they bowed up when they had to. Yeah, the Eddie Robinson Classic.
That game had some really hot games when they would play that.
That was the beginning of the Frank Solich era, too.
Yeah. K-State and Cal played in the Eddie Robinson Classic a few years later, and it was miserable in Arrowhead. There was people passing out in the stands. It's last week in August, and you can still get some miserably hot days. And so, it was close to 100 degrees. I know on the field in Lincoln that day. It was still AstroTurf for another year. Something like 125 on the field.
Yeah.
But Gary tell it better because he was literally on the field for that game.
Yep.
So
sideline reporting and whatnot. So Sonny Cumbie is the head coach for Louisiana Tech as well. They were, again, on the struggle.
Speaking of Texas Tech.
Yep. One of the many slingers in that offense. I said slingers, not swingers. I said slingers.
Hey, whatever they do in West Texas, that's their business. It's a different area.
I mean, I don't want to start labeling people like just based on reputation, but I mean, would it shock you if Cliff Kingsbury lived that life?
Or if he should?
For nothing more than the fact that he's a handsome dude. And as long as he still held onto that property in Phoenix, it was like a lair.
Yeah.
And I will never once accuse Cliff Kingsbury of using drugs, but that looked like a drug lord's lair. When they showed, that was one of the greatest things about the 2020.
Film a movie there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a drug kingpin's lair. And good for Cliff, man. Because like we were getting inundated with the table and the kitchen that we probably have seen at either one of our older relatives' house or at a friend's house that had like kind of an outdated home of Bill Belichick and then the dog. I'm like, man, for being like the most inundated and like biggest genius of a NFL coach, a modest setup that old Bill Belichick has. And then let's see what Cliff Kingsbury's up to. He's just working on his next deal. Just kind of,
he knows how to fall up.
He's overseeing the Valley of the Sun. I mean, he's keeping a watch. Maybe I shouldn't say it's like a drug kingpin's lair. Maybe it's like a superhero lair. That could be more like a superhero lair.
Be more.
Yeah, he's keeping a watchful
eye.
Be more
over family
Phoenix.
Friendly.
That's what he was doing.
He's like Tony Stark.
No, I don't like that as much. I think it was more like a drug kingpin lair.
I like that better.
Yeah. So I hope he held onto that property. And if he didn't, if he sold that after being terminated by the Cardinals, I wonder how much that thing went for, because that was an impressive piece of property that Cliff Kingsbury had. I don't know if Sonny Cumbie has that same thing going. Sonny Cumbie seems like he probably, I just get the feeling he maybe presents himself more modestly. Maybe just has like maybe like $1 million home. I don't know. I don't know how Sonny Cumbie
Sonny?
Yeah.
And Ruston, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what his setup's like out
You can ask Matt about that.
I bet it's more modest than what
I think he had a
Cliff
sit
Kingsbury
down
was.
with Sonny, if I'm not mistaken, when I was doing my research for who we could get.
All right.
So he's had a chance to sit and get to know him. And
Well, and so the football power index actually has Louisiana Tech on a bounce back this year, where they are now, as far as the 2023 football power index projections, has La Tech in the third spot as far as their SP plus and all that fun stuff. You know, the analytics that we love so much that mean everything at this time of the year. But in the Conference USA standings, Louisiana Tech, who finished near the bottom, Bill Conley actually has Louisiana Tech finishing towards the top with a average win of 6.7 and conference win of 4.9. So if you do the math, looking at
I try not
a
to.
team that is, I try not to either. And especially for Nebraska, because Bill Conley will tell you that Nebraska has been the most challenging team to figure out when it comes to the SP Plus Football Power Index.
There are listeners
standpoint.
that probably think they've been the toughest to
Yeah.
figure out. So
Yeah.
he's not telling us anything we don't already know.
But a team that won 3 games a year ago in La Tech, they got them anywhere in the ballpark of 6 to 7 wins in 2023. Sound familiar? Maybe a little bit. All right. So we're going to be talking, again, Louisiana Tech football, breaking that down a little bit more on the personnel as well with Matt Bellinson, who covers them for the Ruston Leader. But first, let's have another update.
Okay. Elkhorn defeats Wahoo
Okay.
4-0. Fine. In state baseball, Elkhorn defeats Wahoo 4-0 in a first-round game at Werner Park on Saturday. They advance to play Norris in a 7 p.m. winners bracket game tonight at Tal Anderson. Elkhorn is seeking its 4th state title and first since 2016. Wahoo will play Omaha Skutt this afternoon in an elimination game, 1 o'clock at Tal Anderson. Creighton baseball swept by Seton Hall, losing yesterday 11-6. It's a bad sweep. The Jays are now 23-22. It hurts. This week is now likely make or break for them. They close the regular season with 4 home games at the Chuck, beginning tomorrow morning when Creighton hosts Omaha in its annual kids game at 11 a.m. I like they do that.
Yes.
And then a 3-game showdown for the grown-ups against number 9 UConn this weekend. As for Omaha, the Mavericks were finally able to face North Dakota State in a doubleheader on Sunday. They get shut out 5-0 in Game 1 before riding an early surge to a 5-3 victory in Game 2. The Mavs remain in 4th place in the Summit League standings at 20-23 overall, 8-12 in league play, a half game ahead of Western Illinois. They're 8-13 in league play, but they're 12-36 overall. And that'll be the race for the final playoff spot. The Storm Chasers hit a pair of home runs in the top of the 9th Sunday to break a 3-3 tie en route to a 6-3 win and a series split with Scranton Wilkes-Barre. The Chasers are 15-22, and they come back home to open a series with Toledo tomorrow night at Werner Park. In the NBA, after losing in the Eastern Conference semifinals for a 3rd year in a row in grand fashion, 76ers coach Doc Rivers says he does intend to return as the team's coach next season. But I always think, what are they supposed to say? Yeah, they're going to fire me.
Yeah, I'm probably done.
So, yeah.
I mean, if they want me back, I'll be here. But you know it and I know it. I'm probably done.
Meanwhile, the bearded one says he hadn't begun to think about what his offseason decision-making process would be like ahead of determining whether to opt into his contract for next season or become a free agent. I'm sure he'll spend plenty of time at the gentlemen's clubs trying to come up to that decision with lots of glitter in the face. Late last night in hockey, no reason this should have been late last night, but if you stayed up to watch, great. If you didn't,
Petrangelo left. Marchessault shoots. He scores. It's a hat trick for Marchessault. The Knights have a 4-2 lead with 1:24 to go in the second period. It's the second playoff hat trick for Jonathan Marchessault. 3 goals in this period for Marchessault, and the Knights have their largest lead of the day. Jonathan, big rip from the left circle. The goal comes at 4-on-4, so the Knights will be on the power play when the other penalty time runs out. That was not a power play goal. From the right, from the left circle, dot Gary with Stone occupying the net front presence. Marchessault got the pass from Petrangelo, not a one-timer. Jonathan tucked it, creeped in a little bit, and the righty from the left circle went long side, glove side, on the goaltender Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, I spoke to Jonathan at length this morning, and he sensed the moment.
yeah, he did sense the moment. A hat trick to eliminate the Edmonton Oilers 5-2 in Game 6 of their second round series Sunday night. to reach the conference finals for the fourth time in the franchise's 6-year history. So no Stanley Cup going to Canada this year once again. They await the winner between the Stars and Kraken, who will play Game 7 tonight in Dallas. Florida and Carolina, those hockey hotbeds, will play in the Eastern Conference Finals. And in baseball, Phillies star Bryce Harper is feeling back at home after coming off the injured list as he was ejected from yesterday's 4-0 loss at Colorado after charging at the Rockies dugout following a last out of the top of the 7th inning, setting off an altercation that cleared both teams' benches and bullpens. He appeared to respond to Colorado reliever Jake Bird, who clapped a hand against his glove and said something towards the Philly dugout. Harper was initially restrained by Rockies catcher Elias Diaz. Then Phillies third base coach Dusty Wathan prevented the two-time NL MVP from entering a group of players and coaches gathered near the first base line. Just had Tommy John surgery. Can you be throwing punches and stuff like that? Like
it's like, hey, which hand did you use if you're a pitcher? Did you use your left hand or your right hand? Make sure you're using your non-pitching hand. So hopefully Bryce kept
this is my throwing hand
in mind. Yes, this is my throwing hand right here.
Now it's on you.
The Oilers, come on, guys. Come on, boys. First of all, Leon Draisaitl, who was an absolute stud in the postseason, was just non-existent in this series. As we were talking about James Harden, big players have to be present in the moment. And Connor McJesus, man, this is the most disappointing. And I have nothing against the Vegas Golden Knights. That is amazing, by the way. In their 6th year, this is their 4th conference finals appearance in their 6th year. This has not happened since I think in the 20s with the Rangers.
Imagine what Maple Leafs fans think.
That is unreal. Vegas is already a legitimate powerhouse in just 6 years of existence. But I will always shed a tear when we don't get more Connor McDavid in the postseason. Now, just like Draisaitl, I got to give McDavid a little bit of stuff as well. Those guys, you need to have your dudes present and making a difference in those big moments. And give credit to Vegas; they made them non-factors. But yeah,
and I mentioned this before the update.
I'm always trying to bring more attention to the game of hockey. Jim,
well,
if you haven't been able to notice. So Connor McDavid is a must follow. And anytime he's no longer playing and the postseason's still going on, I think that is not, I think that's a loss.
Well, and along the lines of what you're saying about, bringing more attention to hockey, coworker of ours, Josh Otson, who, he works here at the station as well. He had something on the www.twitter.com last night, and he's absolutely right. Why the hell was this game on at 9 p.m.? You obviously don't want kids to watch this.
Right.
So you have to show a bad Sunday night baseball game. You can't put the game on 2, or you can't figure out something so this is why ESPN wanted the NHL back, so they could continue to just bastardize it and not show it and make it hard to find. If that's the case, the NHL is much better with the NBC networks, and Turner's done a good job. So I'm leaving. It's just like the NBA. Turner does a much better job than ESPN does. Mm-hmm. But the fact that on a Sunday, this playoff game, one of them featuring, one of the teams being featured is obviously turning into a machine.
Yeah.
Especially out west. New franchise. Great opportunity to grow the game.
And then
you have a player that's one of the
Pacific Northwest, where you have the Kraken in just their 2nd year in the playoffs as well.
And they play a 7th game tonight. And then so you have this team in Vegas playing against one of your future superstars of the game. Current supers, but you know what I mean. Yeah. One of the guys that's going to be one of your guys. And you put them on at 9 o'clock, just, by the way.
Yeah.
So if you want to grow the game, how many kids are going to be watching this game unless they live in the Pacific time?
Not since the days of Gary Thorne and ESPN was the hockey product.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, why did you even go get the package? Why did you spend the money to get it? Because you obviously don't care. Because, we've got all have Cardinals Red Sox on.
Yeah, like the NBC, especially when you get to this point of the season in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they go all in.
What the hell are they showing on ESPN too?
I couldn't tell you. Was it weird one year when the postseason, the Stanley Cup playoffs, you had to go to the Golf Channel to watch a game? Yeah, it was weird.
You remember Outdoor Life?
Yes. That was weird. But once you got into the nitty gritty of the Stanley Cup playoffs, that presentation, Doc Emmerich, I mean, come on, who doesn't want to hear Doc Emmerich? It was fantastic. I was excited because I am an ESPN Plus subscriber, so I could watch a lot of Hawks games throughout the year. So I did appreciate that opportunity to do so. But you're right. The postseason presentation by ESPN for the Stanley Cup playoffs has been...
It's like a hindrance for them.
Right. It's like, oh, yeah, we have this. Well, we got to find a spot for it. And puck drop
why did
times
you get it?
They're dictated by, TV windows. And they look, I'm not trying to say, hey, hockey should be prioritized over, football or anytime it goes head to head with like the NBA playoffs. But when you start to get out of, conference semifinals, getting close to conference finals, and
But if you're going to show it, show it.
Exactly. Especially in the postseason.
Our ratings are terrible. That's because you didn't grow the base to begin with to where they might want to check it out.
And when you have an opportunity like Vegas, who I would assume, especially just in 6 years, we talked about 4 times now making the conference finals. That is so impressive. They're kind of the cool team right now, especially for a younger generation. It's kind of a cool team.
So let them be cool. Let the kids watch them.
And then you have Connor McDavid, who is a generational talent.
This is like all those years in the NBA where their finals ratings would be low. Well, when you show the Lakers every damn week and then they don't make the finals and you're wondering why our championship, the ratings are low, you got to give them reason.
Yeah.
Let fans attach themselves.
And
you have a chance to grow the game. They discover it. You're like, how'd you become a Vegas Golden Knights fan? Oh, they were on TV all the time. I watched them. And
they got time now. They've got about 2, maybe 3 years before Chicago gets rolling again with Connor Bedard. They've got that time to figure it out. Because if Connor Bedard is rolling with Chicago in that market, and they don't, and part of me is being sort of sarcastic because it's my team and selfish that the Chicago Blackhawks will have Connor Bedard, and he could be a McDavid type guy. But there's a serious tone as well. You got a big market. If Chicago becomes good again, that's great for the sport. But if you are burying it in completely like obscure puck drop times in the playoffs, you're not growing your sport. Gary Bettman, ESPN, you need to have a sit down. You need to have a real chat.
And it sounds like my soapbox rant. It's really Josh's deal. And I just saw that before
right,
bed. I saw that, and he's right. He even said, I think it was something like, they obviously don't want kids to watch this if you're putting it on a Sunday night at 9:00. And I thought, yeah, it's true.
Yep. He's absolutely right.
Too bad, because it's exciting series too. I thought it would go 7.
Yeah, I was hoping so too. Just want to see more McJesus, but I want $1 million too. We don't always get what we want. All right, so we're going to be talking some Louisiana Tech football next with Matt Bellinson covering La Tech, and he joins us right after the break here on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10 on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine.
Shop Woodhouse Buick GMC first and experience the difference. A large indoor showroom, 119th and I. You can shop during all kinds of weather conditions. You'll find a wide variety of new and pre-owned inventory, from stylish SUVs to the capable trucks that'll get the job done for business or for pleasure. And right now, you can find yourself behind the wheel of a 2023 Buick Encore GX Preferred. The 5-person SUV is ready to reward you with boldly sports touring. They've got technology and connectivity and the power to get ahead safely with confidence. You can lease it right now for $299 a month for 39 months with 10,000 miles per year. With approved credit, and you have a current GMC or Buick lease, $999 down payment, first payment, and $299 doc fee due at signing. The offer expires on May 31st. A great offer on a fantastic SUV. Woodhouse Buick GMC definitely has something for everyone. Car buying simplified online at WoodhouseBuickGMC.com or in the indoor showroom at 119th and I, where you can shop in all kinds of weather. Online anytime, WoodhouseBuickGMC.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
Because in order for it to be, in my opinion, any kind of a burger, sandwich, whatever, the buns have to match.
Oh, it has to match.
That's weird criteria. That's the only barrier.
Yeah,
just top and bottom bun.
So wait, real fast, John. If it wasn't pizza and this was bread, you would say this is a burger?
I would say it's just a bunch of entrees and some fries piled on each other.
No, that's actually fair.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Canoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A cool and wet start to the week Monday. Expect light rain through the morning and early afternoon, then drying out by the evening. Otherwise cloudy and cool with highs in the upper 50s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We're still getting reports of that accident along the right shoulder of westbound I-80 near I Street. That's going to be backed up all the way to 72nd, and you can still expect delays of up to 10 minutes in that area. Then we're also getting reports of another accident along 30th and Hamilton Street, so please be cautious if you're in that area as well. And we're getting reports of another accident northbound along the JFK just near L Street, so please be cautious if you're in that area. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Lanahaw Nurseries.
Think spring? Think Lanahaw Garden Center. We offer the most complete selection of landscape supplies and plant material for all of your projects. Lanahaw is your one-stop shop for all of your outdoor needs. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
Everyone knows Sauls pays top dollar for your gold, but Sauls pays cash on the spot for your precious metals too. Silver, gold, platinum, coins, bars. Who wants to wait to get paid? Get to Sauls Jewelry and Loan.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
Email us on the Equitable inbox with whatever is on your mind. The Zone inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. You can hit me up, agree, disagree, tell me your thoughts on life at Handley at 1620thezone.com. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox.
Small business owners, we know finishing your to-do list can feel like climbing a mountain, but that mountain is also covered in banana peels. Then when something new gets added to your list, you're like, nope, I'm already climbing this huge, super slippery banana peel mountain of a to-do list. At Progressive, we don't want to make your day any harder. That's why we make it easy to manage your policy on our mobile app. So climbing that banana peel mountain feels more like a leisurely stroll. See if you can save on commercial auto insurance in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms and conditions.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Kugler Vision. Let us talk about the three most surprising things about modern LASIK at Kugler Vision. The first, how fast that LASIK procedure is. With Kugler Vision's leading-edge technology, we're talking just a few minutes per eye. Incredibly speedy. And how about this for number two? How comfortable the procedure is. So often from their patients, they hear, wait, that's it? It's over? They make sure that you're relaxed and comfortable, as well as knowing exactly what is happening. And this for number three, how quickly you can get back to normal life. Patients typically drive themselves to Kugler Vision the very next day for their follow-up visit. So you're back in action less than 24 hours later. Kugler Vision right now, they have special pre-summer savings on modern LASIK or any of their other advanced vision correction procedures. If you've ever thought about fixing your bad vision, the Kugler Vision Eye Analysis is your first step. Do so today. Schedule one online at KuglerVision.com.
Make the right call, fans. The Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Rooferees. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Now, the second home game of the 2023 Nebraska football season will be welcoming in Louisiana Tech, as we were reminiscing about the 1998 game of La Tech coming into Memorial Stadium. And Tim Rattay and Troy Edwards, in a game that La Tech lost, did put up numbers. And to think that, I think for Husker fans, knowing that Tim Rattay and Troy Edwards cannot re-enter the gates of Memorial Stadium and beyond Tom Osborne Field is probably a bit of a sigh of relief. But what will this Louisiana Tech team look like on that day at Memorial Stadium on September 23rd as we welcome in and talking about Louisiana Tech, Matt Bellinson covering La Tech on that beat. And first of all, Matt, let's talk about this team from a year ago, because I was looking at the SP Plus, that this is a team that is projected to have a pretty decent jump from what was a tough 3-9 season. Is there that belief kind of surrounding this football team entering the 2023 season?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, thanks for having me on, guys. And yes, this jump is expected from the fan base and from the media at large, I think, around here. And I think, I'm sure we might get into it a little bit later, but I think it has to start with Hank Bachmeier, the transfer quarterback coming in from Boise State. And, obviously Sonny Cumbie wants to run this air raid offense. And, obviously you mentioned before that 1998 game, obviously Louisiana Tech putting up a lot of points, and, I'm not expecting them to come in and, do anything, close to that this time around, but they certainly do expect that this offense in particular is going to take a real step forward and, hopefully in turn, give this whole team kind of a boost. Like you mentioned, a 3-9 season last year, definitely did not start the Sonny Cumbie era off like people were expecting.
Well, and speaking of Sonny Cumbie, and as we know, that air raid offense always is going to be connected to Mike Leach in Texas Tech, and Sonny Cumbie, one of the many trigger men in that offense. When you kind of look at just what he was trying to sort out in his first year last year as the head coach and trying to kind of get that roster, you mentioned the transfers too, and with everything that you have to manage, was last year sort of considered, if for lack of a better term, sort of that year zero of trying to sort of get the roster where you wanted it and try to be able to kind of organize, situate things the way that he could, so he could maybe take that step forward here this season?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think, if you talk to La Tech administrators and, Cumbie himself, we talked, after the spring game, and he even said, he admits that this was not how the start was supposed to go. That being said, there's not a sense of panic. There's not a sense of, hey, you have to win, in year two and you have to, contend for a conference title. Certainly you can't miss a bowl game again. I think that's kind of the standard that this program has lived in the past couple seasons. And, they've gone 3-9 the last 2 years. So, certainly something has to change pretty quickly, but I think, like you mentioned, I think last year in a way, it was kind of viewed as year zero. I mean, if you look, you mentioned that air raid. I mean, it's kind of hard to run an air raid system when, 4 quarterbacks played, at least 3 games last season for this program. I mean, a lot of injuries kind of in and out. Like you mentioned, a lot of transfers, there was just so much, dynamic wise that I feel like you can never get a true sense of what type of product they wanted to run on the field. And so, yeah, I think in a lot of ways, I think fans kind of understood that by year's end. But, certainly frustration definitely set in because obviously this program has gotten used to going to bowl games and, it's gotten used to at least being in the conversation in Conference USA. And that certainly has not been the case the last 2 years. So, yeah, I feel like the expectations are definitely taking a step forward this year. That being said, I don't expect this to be like a hot seat here for Sonny Cumbie, by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, and we have a very good friend of ours who is a La Tech alum, and he had mentioned too that just the way that Skip Holtz kind of maybe left this roster. What was that sort of rebuilding process there too, and just kind of how that program was left under Skip Holtz?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, the success under Skip Holtz, I mean, it was quite remarkable. I mean, I think La Tech went to 6 straight bowl games and won 6 straight bowl games. Just a couple years ago, under Skip Holtz, and it's kind of crazy just to see how far the program has kind of taken a dip here. I think the rebuild process, I mean, like I mentioned before, Sonny Cumbie wanted to come in and kind of turn this offense into his own, air raid system and kind of get a lot of playmakers. And I think if you look at the roster that he was inheriting, there were certainly some talented guys. Tyler Grubbs, was a all-conference linebacker that, eventually, entered the transfer portal and left for Tulane. And there were a couple of nice wide receiver pieces, but, all in all, I think it was pretty clear the downward trajectory that this program was maybe headed on, given, the success that they were on. I think the roster that, kind of got them to those bowl games previously, it was kind of on the out. And I think people were starting to realize that maybe this coaching staff was maybe not recruiting at the level that it needed to in order to, sustain success. And I think, the hope was that, Sonny Cumbie coming over from, a couple of Big 12 programs was going to be able to bring in some big names. And, certainly year one, like I mentioned before, I think they were just trying to get their feet under them for the most part. And I think, maybe in year two, obviously bring in Hank and, Tyree Shelton from Baylor. You bring in a couple other guys. I think for the most part, I think people are, pretty excited, just in turn of, maybe how quickly this roster can turn around and hopefully get back to a point of competitiveness.
We're talking to Matt Bellinson, who covers Louisiana Tech for the Ruston Daily Leader. That'll be Nebraska's fourth game of the season in Lincoln on September 23rd. So as the personnel comes together, Matt, you mentioned transfer quarterback. When we think of that air raid, we think of skilled players and guys that can do a lot of different things. So when we look at some of the players that either came through spring on a high note or guys that they're expecting big things out, what can you kind of tell us about the offensive personnel here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts with Cyrus Allen, a pretty young wide receiver that was kind of thrown into the mix last year. Again, there were a couple injuries that also, decimated that room at times. But he really stepped up as a downfield threat for this offense. He was second in the country in yards per reception. Had 500 yards just total and 4 touchdowns. I mean, for a young guy, he certainly showed the ability to be a threat in this offense that really needs, its mismatches, excuse me, and it really needs, people to kind of extend plays downfield and, get all that yak yardage. I think he's kind of the number one target, going into this season. Obviously you lose tight end Griffin Hebert. He was not taken in the NFL draft, but, I think he's still, on the rookie rosters for a couple NFL teams here. And you also lose, Trey Harris. He transfers to Ole Miss. He was your, leading receiver in catches, yards, and touchdowns. He heads to the SEC and Lane Kiffin. So I think in total, the pass catching group, it's definitely not at the level that it was entering last season. But I think with guys like Cyrus, Julian Lewis, and Smoke Harris, I think both took steps forward. In the spring, Julian Lewis is a guy that, in years past was just kind of a depth chart, casualty. He wasn't really one that had a lot of opportunities, but I think this past season, he didn't exactly light up the stat books, but anything like that. But I think going forward, I think given the options that they're going to have, I think he's going to have an opportunity to take a step forward. And then, obviously a familiar name to Nebraska fans. I don't know how much he's going to be able to play at this point, but, DeColdis Crawford, he transfers from Louisiana, to Louisiana Tech, I should say. And we didn't actually see him a whole lot this spring. He's still rehabbing from that knee injury that obviously cost him, his time in Lincoln. But I think there's some excitement about what he can bring. But again, we didn't see him in the spring, so it's kind of hard to gauge what exactly, level of preparedness he's at going in. But, I think by, hopefully by this point, in the schedule, La Tech will have already played 4 games. And so, the hope is for the coaching staff, he's going to be, a pretty big, target for Hank Bachmeier in that offense.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about DeColdis Crawford. And I know, as you mentioned, not available for a good duration of the spring, so unable to maybe kind of really project what he looks like with this system. But I know that there is a guy that has good speed, has big playmaking ability. There's a pretty strong belief, though, once he is kind of cleared and he's good to go, that he could be a big part of this offense?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I think if you're Sonny Cumbie, he mentioned before, just, obviously the transfer just mass, pool that they were able to bring in. I think it's pretty clear that he felt like this group and just this team in general just needed kind of a reset in terms of the people that they can rely on to make plays, whether that be on the defense or offensive side of the ball. And yeah, absolutely. I think DeColdis, you don't bring a guy like that in here. Obviously, again, he didn't really have his opportunity to shine in Lincoln, just, given the injury. But I think coming out of high school, just kind of a big name for obviously a lot of reasons, obviously his name being one. But I think, this coaching staff, I think they didn't make that move in the transfer portal for no reason. I think they understand that if they want to run this air raid system, they need people that can extend plays downfield. They need people that can, go up and get the ball. And again, we haven't seen DeColdis, really have that opportunity, just, given the injury history. But absolutely, I think he is expected to be, if he becomes healthy and is able to get on the field, he is expected to be a playmaker for this group, no doubt.
Matt, you mentioned the winning ways that we've seen of Louisiana Tech and getting to bowl games, whether we're talking about the Skip Holtz era or, even going before that. And correct me if I'm wrong, I remember having some pretty good defenses there too, where it wasn't just the offense that was able to put up numbers, but they did have some years where they were a little bit more stingy defensively. And so when you kind of look at Scott Power and again, in this system where he seems like his track record's kind of interesting, where he's sort of gone to the next step and the next step, slowly but surely. So as far as just his overall presence with this defense and what they're trying to get done in their scheme, what can you tell us about that defensive leadership there?
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to when you look at the offensive side of the ball. Just a lot of new names, a lot of new faces in different positions. They brought in, again, some more transfers, especially on that defensive line and linebacking, room, like two areas that really hurt them last season. I mean, when you just look at their stats, I mean, they were second worst in the country in run defense, fourth worst in scoring defense, and third fewest tackles for loss among the group of five. I mean, their leading sack man was, safety Jaden Cole. I mean, so they really understand that in order to run this defensive scheme under Coach Power, like you mentioned, it has to start with pressure. And I think, when you look at his time at Stephen F. Austin, I don't have their exact stats in front of me, but if I recall, I mean, they were one of the top, teams in the country in terms of, getting after the quarterback and kind of creating that backfield havoc. And so I think if you're just looking at this defensive structure, I think it has to start up front, like most defenses do. But I think particularly for this group, they made a lot of changes up front. They lose, Kiwi Rose to Arkansas, on that defensive line, really one of their only returners. They bring in a kid, Jaden Gray from Iowa State, bring in a couple other guys to, hopefully help that room. And at the linebacking spot too. I mean, they bring in a guy, Zach Zymas, from Arkansas, kind of trade, players there, and kind of move him, to that linebacking spot. So I think for this defense, it pretty much all comes back to they have to just gain tackle. They have to be able to get pressure through the line of scrimmage. And if they're able to do that, I think they'll be a little bit more competitive. I mean, there were so many games last year where this offense would go down and score. I mean, I just think back to that Rice game. I mean, I think it was a 42-41 final. I mean, you should win that game.
Yeah.
And, it goes into overtime, and your defense just cannot get a stop when they needed to. So, yeah, I think, Coach Power, I think he's a smart guy. I think that, the players rally around him. I think the question is, can these new faces, kind of run that system and kind of get the defensive momentum it needs, to kind of make both sides of the ball successful.
And Matt, we'll wrap with this one. With the amount of talent we've seen in Louisiana, we saw this here in Nebraska with Mickey Joseph and really trying to tap into with the talent that exists. From the traditional recruiting standpoint, meaning not necessarily leaning on the transfer portal, but going the high school route too. What kind of sense do you get from Sonny Cumbie and this staff as far as their ability to recruit that state successfully?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously, not to make excuses, but I think, obviously just given the trajectory that LSU, has kind of taken off, in year one under Brian Kelly, I mean, definitely the top end of the state's talent, for the most part is heading, to Baton Rouge. But that being said, I do feel like Sonny Cumbie has done a good job, especially staying local. I know obviously he's not going to be on the field this season. But, just the other day, they signed a kid out of Ruston High, a really good 2024 linebacker, Jaden Mayfield. And Sonny Cumbie even said it himself, on signing day a couple months ago that he feels like in this job, you shouldn't have to fly anywhere, to recruit. He feels like they should just get in the car, drive to Shreveport, drive to Monroe, and they should be able to just, get the best available players to them. And I feel like if you're Sonny Cumbie and his staff, I think you have to feel pretty good. Obviously, most people go off of 247 rankings in terms of team talent composite and all that sort of stuff. But if you want to go off rivals, I mean, they have the highest rated recruiting class, in the rivals era, just given the amount of talent that they were able to bring in. A lot of offensive and defensive linemen. I think goes back to, again, like what I was saying. I think it all starts up front for these teams, and so I think they've done a pretty good job. Obviously, I don't think any coaching staff is obviously satisfied completely in terms of the recruiting wins, but I feel like they've done a pretty good job so far of being able to stay in this area and bring some talent in. And I think hopefully will help them in the future. And I think for as long as NBC, I think he wants to show the people in the North Louisiana area that, hey, you can come to Louisiana Tech and we want to rebuild this thing and we want to do it with you. And so yeah, I think there's work to be done, but I think for the most part they've done the best job that they can.
It'll be Nebraska, Louisiana Tech. That'll be on September 23rd, game 4 for the Huskers and for the Bulldogs. And Matt Bellinson on the La Tech beat for the Ruston Daily Leader. Matt, awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate you joining us. And, hey, maybe we'll get a chance to talk to you during that week, I guess, leading up for that game. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's the Sonny Cumbie addition to this program now too, and what he's trying to accomplish. You saw it covering the Big 12 for a long time too, Jimmy. That air raid style offense, and again, you're a branch of the Mike Leach tutelage, if you will. You come into a roster, not that many places are going to leave you with a roster that you can just kind of hit the ground running with that type of offense, but to see what Sonny Cumbie can do here in the next couple of years in
and you can get some dudes down there.
Yes,
not everyone's going to LSU.
Absolutely can.
or an SEC school.
And I think of the sort of the fun factor when it comes to playing in that offense, especially now with skill position players and guys that are available in the transfer market. Like, remember we were talking about who you almost nailed it too on Richard Torres. Like that to me screams like
I said he's going back home, but
but it seemed like a UTSA guy. And if we're talking about Conference USA, like La Tech, but he ends up going to Incarnate Word, where did they have before that guy?
Down the freeway.
And they had Cameron Ward, who is now at Washington State, but a guy that threw in volume. Those quarterbacks, even ones that are probably going to maybe be overlooked by some Power 5 schools, those quarterbacks, I get the sense they like to play in that type of system, like volume throwing and big play.
Well, look how the
potential,
NFL has changed.
Well, and you don't have to use as much of your ability to move and, be the dual threat type guy. But if you've got the arm talent,
it's a nice way of saying you don't have to, worry about getting your ass kicked every play because you're running the ball a lot. So you're able to use that sporadically, but you're able to show off the arm and use the features of running the ball to just kind of accentuate what you're doing.
And I would think, before the transfer portal, if you're in a position that Sonny Cumbie is, that's going to take years to maybe find that guy. As to where it is now, you could maybe find that guy within a year or two when it comes to the transfer portal, especially if you're able to gauge a guy that comes from a similar situation.
I really do.
I wouldn't doubt it at all.
Look at it this way. Okay, here's McNeese State, or as it's known down there, McNeese State. When they came to Lincoln, the Amir Abdullah game.
Yep.
I remember the broadcast. They were talking about, man, it's been almost 9 years ago now when that game was. A lot of the guys that end up there are very capable of playing in an SEC school, but there's so many. So it's like, well, do you want to be third, fourth, or fifth if you end up not getting and cracking the rotation? Or do you want to go somewhere still nearby, a good school where you can play?
Yeah.
And so a lot of these schools, they have some great dudes that can play ball. And so you add that, and then you add Sonny's knack for running that air raid and recruiting to it. We talk about the Troy Edwards game. I mean, they're going to do stuff like that in that offense. So they'll get, they probably already have some dudes, but they'll continue to get dudes there. I think it's a good place for him. Skip had that thing going for a while. And so Sonny being there, that's gonna be a dangerous opponent.
So we're gonna be talking to Jacob Bigelow at 9:00.
He's dangerous too.
He is. Oh man, and have you seen his crossover? Shoot, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah, Rothstein doesn't want any of that smoke.
Who Rothstein is, again, as far as we know, is resting. Said he would sleep in May, but I still see him tweeting a bunch of stuff.
Jacob doesn't.
The Nebraska basketball roster now that the transfer portal period has closed. What we get from that, also want to get Jacob's thoughts on some of the happenings in the NBA. And when we get a moment to, and maybe we can do this here when we come back real quickly, college coach that you might need to keep an eye on for a coaching vacancy in the NBA. We'll do so right after this here on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. Big names, big games. We've got them all. 1620 The Zone.
You ain't seen nothing. This is Ford Truck Month, America. Time to get up and get into Ford F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 46 years straight. Like the Ford F-150 or the all-new Ford Super Duty. Or check out Ford Maverick and Ford Ranger pickups. So get into Ford Truck Month and see what a built Ford Tough truck can do for you. There's a great selection in stock and ready for delivery today. Based on 1977 to 2022 calendar year total sales.
At Emprise Bank, we're your partner in possible. And we believe that when we work together, your dreams are achievable, which means prototypes become production lines, startup plans become expansion plans, and the opportunities you see become the organization you run. Emprise is built for business, which means we're committed to helping you succeed. This is the power of possible. Visit emprisebank.com to learn more.
It's time to wake up your taste buds. Introducing my new Fiesta Line Chicken Pizza. spicy taco sauce, generous amounts of chicken, green peppers, onions, jalapenos, mounds of cheddar and mozzarella cheese, and finished with a tangy lime sprinkle. Add your favorite one-topping pizza and my sweet cinnamon monkey bread. Fiesta Feast. Now that's a fiesta for your mouth. Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Babbel. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at babbel.com/TNC.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day, and they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. Choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long. And with Babbel, it isn't hard. It's perfect.
And now try Babbel for free by texting radio to 64,000. Text radio to 64,000. That's RADIO to 64,000.
Anywhere fans go to cheer on their team, there are behind-the-scenes MVPs ensuring everything is game day ready. We see you, Joe, fixing seats so every fan can enjoy every game. And Allie, who keeps her stadium running smoothly from the moment the first game starts to the last play of the season. At Grainger, you're our MVPs, and we're always here for you, with supplies and solutions for every industry and 24/7 customer support. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Experience every pitch, run, and legendary play. Your home for Royals baseball in Omaha. 1620 The Zone.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
This week's Zone Deal is to 72 Table and Tap. 72 Table and Tap hits the spot for creative food, craft beer, and bourbon. Also serving salads, tasty bar food, flatbreads, pizza, sandwiches, and desserts. Eat, drink, gather, and repeat at 72 Table and Tap, located at 72nd and Q. With this week's deal, you'll receive 2 $25 vouchers, a $50 value. Forget it, just $25. Get all the details at 1620thezone.com.
Going to get to Jacob Bigelow here in just a moment. So I want to create the ultimate tease when it comes to the Phoenix Suns opening. And we can get into in our final hour, too, of Monty Williams and did they do him dirty. They did. Or did DeAndre Ayton do him dirty? He did. But if there was one college coach out there that you would say, maybe this time, timing's everything when it comes to a coach either jumping from one program to the other, a la Roy Williams.
This isn't very hard to think about.
It's not if you think about it. Now, he did turn down an NBA gig in the past, but could the Phoenix Suns and the timing be the potential landing spot for one Tom Izzo? Go on that for a little bit. We're going to be talking to Jacob Bigelow next here on 1620 The Zone.
Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We're still getting reports of that accident on the right shoulder of westbound I-80 near I Street. That's going to be backed up all the way to 72nd, and you can still expect delays of up to 10 minutes in that area. Then we're also getting reports of another accident along 30th and Hamilton Street, so please be cautious if you're in that area as well. And we're getting reports of another accident northbound along the JFK just near L Street, so please be cautious if you're in that area. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Romeo's Mexican Food and Pizza.
Not your typical restaurant, not your typical place. Romeo's, not your typical restaurant, for your nacho place. Romeo's, Romeo's Mexican Food and Pizza. Not your typical restaurant.
For unmatched cardiac expertise, put your heart in the right place with Nebraska Medicine, where you'll find the most heart advances in the state. Telehealth appointments to make your care even more convenient, and a genetics clinic to help avoid future heart issues. With multiple locations, our world-leading care is just a heartbeat from home. For matters of the heart, this is where you begin. Visit nebraskamed.com/heart.
Home is with you wherever that may be.
Creighton coverage on the Zone is presented by Berry Law. At Berry Law, we fight alongside those who choose to fight back. Call Berry Law at 402-999-7777 or visit BerryLawFirm.com. At Berry Law, we're in it to win it.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis. The temperatures are rising, which means plenty of chances for you to get to the golf course just north of Dodge on 120th Street and play some golf, whether it is outside a full 18, inside the Top Tracer building. Schedule a bachelor or a bachelorette party. You can do it all. Don't forget about work outings as well. You could put together a large scramble there at the golf course. They're located just north of Dodge on 120th Street, Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
Email us on the Equitable Bank inbox with whatever is on your mind. Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. You can get me, Gary, at 1620thezone.com. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox. You like bare knuckle fighting? You like Houston Alexander? That's a great combo. It is back at Liberty First Arena over in Ralston. Houston Alexander,
what's up, Gary?
3-0. You're on a win streak.
And it's about to be 4-0.
All right, so we're going to fight Jeremy Smith coming up on May 19th. Why bare knuckle fighting for you?
Well, because I started off street fighting, and it just transitioned to boxing. Now it's transitioning to bare knuckle. So that was an easy transition to make.
What are people going to expect? They are familiar with you, other than beating Jeremy Smith. What can they expect?
You know what? It's just not me. The atmosphere, the crowd, the participation. It's a different setting from UFC or any type of other event. It's more, to me, it's more exciting. So just more excitement.
BKFC 43 coming up on May 19th at First Liberty Arena in Ralston. You want to talk a little smack?
The only smack I talk is when I'm in the ring smacking people around.
That's Houston Alexander. You can see him on May 19th in Ralston.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
That's a good 311 pull right there.
This always makes me think of
Yeah.
Shaq.
Yes, Shaq is in the video.
Back when he was the baddest man alive, was in the middle winning championships.
Yep.
This came out right after around the time I graduated high school. So it's about this time, 2001.
Yeah, wouldn't
And so-
believe by 311 in the video. Shaq's. This is when Shaq, the man on the LA scene with Omaha is 311, but their second home is LA. I know some people say that 311 doesn't claim Omaha as their home. They do. But they've just been spending all their time in
Hope
LA.
so. There's literally a song called Omaha Island.
Yeah. So they're like, no, they don't claim Omaha. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. I know people in the band. That's not. Yeah, let me pick up that. name drop there.
No.
I
Yeah,
didn't drop a
go
name.
ahead.
I didn't drop a name, but the drum tech for 311, long friend of mine, Ryan Manley. He's great dude. Great dude. So I can confidently tell you that they claim Omaha as their home. You had a little West Side and Omaha Bryan representation. 311. That's right.
Oh, yeah, we took you there today. It may be gloomy, but in our mind, it's 85.
Well, there's a basketball tie in there, too. As you mentioned Shaq. That's a good call on with that video. As you wouldn't believe. By 311.
And speaking of Shaq,
now we go to the phone line. What can I? But it is kind of gloomy out, so we need to just bring in a guy who's going to brighten your day. That's Jacob Bigelow. Your favorite?
No pressure.
Our favorite? Jacob, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, Nick. I perked up a little bit here in that 311 lead in. Even though I was 4 years old when that song came out, I still
okay, screw you.
I'm sorry.
You remember when you were jamming at 4 years old to this song? I'm sure Mom and Dad had the song blaring for you.
Yeah, no, little me was head bobbing.
Okay.
Head bobbing to 311 when I was 4 years old.
See,
Absolutely.
Jacob's such a great dude that he can be heartwarming and still throw some shade at us in the middle of it and still do it with a smile on his face. He just pointed out, hey, I was 4 years old. And never mind you.
I think I went to that concert of legal drinking age, Jacob. So, yeah, you can go fly a kite.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's fine.
Oh,
whatever. You know what? We're jealous. We wish we were 4 years old because then we would be, younger today.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Enjoy that quarter life crisis.
Oh, I am. Well ahead of you.
So, Jacob, I had my push notifications set. I was waiting for my CJ Wilcher alerts. It never happened. So, in the surprises of surprises with the Nebraska basketball roster, how big of a surprise is it that we haven't heard anything about CJ Wilcher?
I think it's definitely surprising. But I mean that could be interpreted one of two ways. It could be interpreted as he's either I'm going to bet on myself and bust my to get better and earn my role and solidify I'm still here for a reason and I'm here for some playing time or. It could be interpreted as what other options elsewhere would he have had that he would have seen, as a good fit. But yeah, definitely a little surprising to see that the portal, the closing of the portal has come and gone, and Nebraska did not have any further attrition after we heard of Wilhelm Bredenbach's departure. That was it. So I'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, mostly just due to the passage of time, I'd put it at about a 4 or a 5, just because the longer it went on, we kind of seemed like, well, maybe he's going to stick around, and here we are.
And I'm always interested in the dialogue Fred has with players that, from the outside looking in, and I know you're a little bit more inside to this, but from my vantage point, I would think, okay, there's a guy who, as you just laid out, is trying to get on the floor more. There's probably some potential opportunities, maybe not in Power 6 basketball, but maybe at the mid-major level, maybe at the low major level, that he could have a bigger role and kind of be the guy that could be appealing to him. But how Fred might communicate where he sees CJ Wilcher and how he can impact this team. Look, we've seen Fred be brutally honest with players before where you kind of understand the writing's on the wall. You're just not going to play a whole heck of a lot. I mean, is there a case to be made that maybe there is a role for CJ Wilcher that we're kind of missing, that there could be some minutes still to be had? As you mentioned, kind of betting on yourself, but there could be some minutes that are out there that we're just maybe not giving them credit to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I think there definitely could be some minutes, out there for him. And I mean, it's, the, as cliche as it is, basketball, it's a make shots game, make or miss. And, if his shots are falling, we've seen both ends of the spectrum for CJ. When his shots are falling, he's a guy to watch, on the floor. And when he's not, he kind of sticks out like a sore thumb when his shots aren't falling. And then on the other end of the court, he's not the quickest of foot, but he's got, every player has their limitations. But I mean, if his shots are going in, he can. That's his path to earning minutes. And, that's easier said than done. Have that consistency in that outside jump shot to warrant consistent minutes. So, I mean, that'd be where minutes come from, and it'd be probably in that at that wing spot, that 3-4, because that's kind of the only place where I think there are kind of minutes up for grabs.
Yeah,
they're pretty crowded in the backcourt, and they've got some legitimate depth with post players. So at that 3-4 spot, depending on how they want to rotate and set the lineups, that'd be where there are still some minutes for CJ to try and earn.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and you can tell me if this is a little too far-fetched or if there could be something to this. And again, with CJ Wilcher, which I honestly didn't expect to have this much CJ Wilcher content with you this morning, but it's just happening that way. And that is one thing I did notice that I was impressed with towards the end of the year as his role got reduced, and it wasn't anything consistent. Like he would come in maybe late in the first half, or he would hardly play at all. His engagement on the bench with other players and just support of other players was pretty noticeable. And when I think of what you lose in a Walker and Greasel when it comes from just a culture standpoint and what Fred and that staff felt like they established this last year, not only having their most wins in the Big Ten under Fred's watch, but also having a pretty likable team. Is there something to be said that CJ Wilcher was a big part of that? Because for a guy that we've seen it so many times, is not playing the minutes that he hoped he would be, can kind of go into a shell, can kind of become very disinterested with the team and just not be the type of guy that's going to support these guys night in and night out. That did not seem like the case for CJ Wilcher. He seemed to be heavily engaged no matter what his role was night in and night out.
No, I completely and totally agree. Whenever we talked to CJ after games, he was very, very positive and spoke really highly of his teammates, and he seemed like one of those culture guys, culture pieces that was helping build what Fred and that staff want to build. And you lose a Walker, a Greasel, a Vandemel, and you want to have some continuity, culture wise, with those guys who have. They know what the end goal is, for what they want to build. And, CJ, his first 2 years here could not have been, it was 2 years, right? I think he's only been here 2 years. Yeah. I'm not losing time like that. But his first 2 years here couldn't be more different, man. Couldn't be more different in terms of the feel of the two different teams and the product on the court and the locker room, with the two different rosters that CJ's been a part of. So, continuity, culture-wise, and a guy who's seen plenty of ups and downs in the program and in that Nebraska uniform. I think that could be beneficial for the program as a whole.
Talking to Jacob Bigelow here on 1620 The Zone. So, Jacob, the other thing that I'm only time's going to tell when we look at this roster, and I kind of have asked you about this the last couple of weeks of how you felt that they did addressing certain areas and when they had to pivot when other guys, mainly guards, were taking other opportunities, how this group rallied. I know that's still a yet to be determined, but if there's somebody that you feel particularly good about on this roster and maybe their prospects of making a jump from this year to the following year, and we could even throw in some of the new additions, is there someone that you kind of look at with this system, with this roster, whether they were here a year ago or elsewhere, that maybe stands to gain the most from this upcoming season?
I think my first choice would be Bryce Williams. I've really liked doing a little bit of a film study on Bryce Williams. And then I also, talking with some friends of mine in the coaching ranks that, game planned and scouted against him. I started talking to them about Bryce Williams when I first heard he was coming on a visit. And, the theme remained the same. Like he's a dude. Like he's the guy, that you, me and Gary, we talked about how much they need a dude, just a guy who can go get a bucket. And Bryce Williams is that, and then some. He's got a lot of tools in the toolbox. And, he didn't even start at the beginning of the year for Charlotte, and then just came into his own throughout this past season with a solid Charlotte squad that made, they were in the CBI, but I mean, Conference USA, they're a one bid league, maybe two if things fall the right direction. But Conference USA was a good league last year. They had some talented teams. Florida Atlantic made the Final Four. North Texas and UAB were in the NIT finals, and then Charlotte won the CBI. So, that's just, people can turn their nose up at those second two tournaments all they want, but there were some talented teams in that conference. Bryce Williams had a really good year there. And Nebraska's needed a dude, with the tools that he's got, to build the inside out game. They've needed a dude like him for a while. And I think if I could buy as much Bryce Williams stock as possible, that's what I'd be doing, because I really like what I've seen on film from him.
I think that is a good candidate. And I would throw in, because I know a lot of comparisons are going to be to Walker, but with Rink Mast in that edition, seems like a guy that, can power himself from block to block, but also has a little bit of range as well. Is he, do you kind of get the feeling that it could take him, though, especially as we get into kind of the early portion of the Big Ten schedule, that might be maybe the newest edition that has a little bit of an adjustment period, or could you see him sort of hitting the ground running?
I think everyone is going to have a little bit of an adjustment period, at least. Well, maybe not Ulis, because he's played in the league.
Right.
But Williams and Mast, I mean, I'm sure their summer regimen at Nebraska is going to be a little different than the summer regimens at Bradley and Charlotte. Whether that be the strength training or the workout schedule, or even just what they have available to them, whether that be, nutrition wise or anything like that, it's going to be completely different. And then, something else to remember with this Nebraska team is they have a trip to Spain in July. And it's going to be, night and day different from the last foreign trip for Fred Hoiberg, which was when he first got here, and he took a brand new team with a bunch of, guys who hardly knew each other on a trip to Italy. I think it's going to be, night and day different. This going to be beneficial for this team. I really think it couldn't have been a better circumstance for the foreign trip to come up. But I mean, they're all, the guys are going to get to campus here at the start of next month for their summer classes, and then they're going to kind of, it's going to be a different summer schedule with the Spain trip and getting to go over there and play some games. But no, back to what you originally said, I'm high on Mast too. He played games against Big Ten competition this past season at Bradley. They played Wisconsin in the NIT, and Wisconsin has those big forwards that are the stereotypical Big Ten big guys, just long, slow, and
and crew cuts. They probably have crew cuts too.
Yeah, probably have crew cuts. But Rink had and Rink still had a solid outing against Wisconsin. So he's played against Big Ten competition, but he hasn't done it night in and night out. But I think he may have a little bit of an adjustment period, but maybe not as long as the typical adjustment period for a mid-major to high-major transfer.
Okay, I'm going to end with this one, and I teased this in the last segment. Buy it or not, that there's at least I'll go and say 20% chance that Tom Izzo could potentially be the next Phoenix Suns coach.
I do not buy that one little bit.
Same.
That would be quite the bold move for Matt Ishbia to do that to his alma mater, and to. I mean, it is his coach. Ishbia did play for Coach Izzo. He was on the last Big Ten national championship team. I just don't see Tom Izzo as an NBA coach. More first and foremost, there are just some coaches in the college ranks that you can see making that adjustment period to the NBA. But Tom Izzo and his like old school, fiery, get in your players' faces, the motivational tactics that we've seen him use. I don't really think that would translate to the pro game. Now, I thought when I heard your tease, I thought you were going to ask me about the other internet, dream scenario going on. The Sixers still have a coach. They haven't fired Doc Rivers, but there are people saying we want Jay Wright to coach the Sixers.
Right.
I thought that may be where you were headed.
There'd be more of a chance of that, but I don't think he wants that either.
Yeah, I don't think
he'd think about it, but
yeah, he'd think about it. He's like, I'm kind of the king of Philly anyway. I could, be Mr. Philly and try to save the Sixers. But with those personalities in that locker room, I don't know if any coaches are going to be running to Philly or picking up the phone immediately if Daryl Morey's giving them calls this offseason.
And there's kind of the right there. It's like, I don't know. Doc, are you going to get rid of James Harden? Then we'll talk. Otherwise, I'm good.
Doc doesn't survive this, right? I mean, it's the writing's on the wall.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I think the coach. Firing the coach is usually the easiest cop. I don't want to call it a cop out, but it's the easiest, way to say, oh no, we're going to address this. We're going to change this, and they yank the coach.
It'll be great having Doc Rivers back on TV next year. He's a fantastic analyst, and I mean that. He's always been a great analyst, and he'll add whoever signs him. People were joking he'll replace Mark Jackson next year. I mean, they keep saying for years Mark Jackson's getting back into coaching. It never happens, but I could see Matt Ishbia picking Izzo's brain on what do you think would that type of deal.
That's why Izzo's been sitting next to him. Okay.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that for sure.
Because if he was going to ever have been an NBA coach, it would have happened many, many years ago.
I agree. And he saw even in his own state, what happened with Beeline when he thought I'm gonna leave and try the NBA thing, and that did not go well. So he's seen plenty of his his peers try to go to the NBA and it not go well, and he's getting up there in tenure and in age, and I think the time has probably passed. But I think he definitely could be a confidant, advisor for Ishbia in what to look for in a coach, for the roster that they've got in Phoenix.
Jacob, good stuff as always, my man. You're beautiful. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks, Jimmy. Have a good show. Good rest of the week. Thanks, guys.
You too.
The Izzo one brought up on CBS Sports.
Yeah, I think that's what he would do. Just pick his brain, because why not? If you played for such a great coach and great mind of basketball, it's kind of similar to when Trev said, if you're going to hear things about me talking to people, that's true.
I don't mind the idea of bringing it up, but I think Jacob kind of hit the nail on the head too, for the connection with Matt Ishbia and Tom Izzo, and Tom Izzo being Ishbia's coach when Ishbia was a part of the most recent Big Ten national title. That could you really do that to your alma mater like that too? Like lure him away, especially a guy who's in legendary status.
Pay Mel Tucker all that money, so that would be the second time you kind of screw over your alma mater.
Well, the only thing I can think of that would at least make it somewhat entertaining is it me, or has Michigan State just gotten completely average here as of late?
Yeah, they end up having
standards under the Michigan State standards.
They end up making a run in the tournament, and we forget the fact that they kind of puttered around.
It's just been kind of not a bad team. I mean, my gosh, we're talking about Nebraska trying to reshape the roster, and in a very important season for Fred Hoiberg. You would love to have the success that even what is a down year for Michigan State, but as far as the Michigan State standards here in the last couple of years, it's been pretty average. But it's one of those deals. If Izzo told Matt Ishbia, hey, I'd be interested, then yes, that's a different conversation.
Maybe. I just don't see that. I see it more as he's picking his brain. Like, what kind of leader do you think would be right for this team as we have it? Like, what can we do to take that next step? And while I don't agree and think Monty got done dirty, I understand where he's coming from, being a new owner, and be like, well, we've gotten so far. How can we take that next step?
Yep.
He's just doing his job and doing due diligence. They got a special talent in Devin Booker. I mean, just like as good as he is, I think he's even better. You have, you can keep Kevin Durant there. He's pretty good too. I think you need to part ways
No.
with Chris Paul, and it seems like that's going to happen because he can't stay healthy, but also you've only gone so far. So you have to be like, how can we build the correct team with the pieces we have, and what pieces can we add, and then who's going to lead that team? And
Even though Ty Lue is supposedly happy as the Clippers head coach, he's linked to this. And
he had
no
his
other
best
reason,
year this year, even
he
though
did.
he's won a
Oh, I agree.
championship. The job he did this year,
Yep.
if anyone still doubted his abilities as an NBA head coach, they shouldn't anymore after the job he did this past year. And so I get if they're interested in him, because that would be a guy that.
And you know who was reportedly interested in teaming up with Ty Lue when the Nets were looking for a coach in 2020 was Kevin Durant. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Hey, I mentioned so Nebraska baseball with a big weekend sweep. They have now clinched a spot in the Big Ten tournament, still with a series to play this weekend against Purdue. There was one bad thing that took place over the weekend in that sweep, and its significance I'll tell you about next as we continue here. No, mornings, Sharp and Handley, 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. The Connor Happer Show.
I feel the need to stand up for bunting. I feel as if it has been crusaded against. I feel as if there is a war on bunting, Josh. They hate bunting. They hate giving up outs. Nerds. It was started by that line in Moneyball where Billy Bean says, never bunt. You're giving up an out. And I'm here to tell you it's still good for something. So, once again, Connor Happer here for bunting.
The Connor Happer Show. Weekdays from 10 to 2 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from Canoyer Garden Center and KETV Newswatch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
A cool and wet start to the week Monday. Expect light rain through the morning and early afternoon, then drying out by the evening. Otherwise cloudy and cool with highs in the upper 50s. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
How powerful is the Cox network? So powerful that one day the internet will let your doctor perform miracles from thousands of miles away,
Connecting to remote operating room.
giving a whole new meaning to the term house call.
Operation complete.
The Cox network. With gig speeds everywhere, it's internet built for tomorrow, today. Cox, bringing us closer. In Cox serviceable areas, speeds vary and are not guaranteed. Cox terms apply. Other restrictions may apply.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
Anywhere fans go to cheer on their team, there are behind-the-scenes MVPs, ensuring everything is game day ready. We see you, Joe, fixing seats so every fan can enjoy every game. And Allie, who keeps her stadium running smoothly from the moment the first game starts to the last play of the season. At Grainger, you're our MVPs, and we're always here for you, with supplies and solutions for every industry and 24/7 customer support. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis. The temperatures are rising, which means plenty of chances for you to get to the golf course just north of Dodge on 120th Street and play some golf, whether it is outside a full 18, inside the Top Tracer building. Schedule a bachelor or a bachelorette party. You can do it all. Don't forget about work outings as well. You could put together a large scramble there at the golf course. They're located just north of Dodge on 120th Street, Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis.
Tell us how you feel on the J-Tech Construction and Solar Zone Twitter feed. Reach Gary, Nick, Connor, Josh, and John anytime on the J-Tech Construction and Solar Zone Twitter feed. Contact the official exterior and solar experts of the Huskers, J-Tech Construction, at yourexteriorexperts.com.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620
I'm going to talk to Joel Lorenzi, the Omaha World Herald, before we get out of here. Crossover just around the corner with Connor and Josh. You got a Monday. Appreciate you making us part of your morning. Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy. So
This day just got a lot better.
Didn't it?
Got Saved by the Bell, the college years on the TV.
We got a
the great Bob Golick.
Yep. The Golick that not everyone talked about.
He was damn good. He was a damn good player.
He was.
Part of the Notre Dame's national championship team in 1977.
And I'll forever say, for people who remember the greatness that was Brady Hoke as the Michigan football coach, is Brady Hoke not the lost Golick? If you would have told me Brady Hoke was related to the Golick, I would have said, yeah, totally. Okay. Anyway. But yes, there is. If you are watching TV, if you're multitasking, listening to us, maybe watching us on 1620thezone.com, and you're a Saved by the Bell fan like I am, and I get the feeling, Jimmy, you are too, there appears to be a marathon, a Saved by the Bell marathon on E.
So if you're staying home from work today,
yeah. And
you want to listen to the Happer Show and you want to watch Saved by the Bell, we got you covered.
It's gloomy out. It's, there's a little bit of rain going on. This is keeping me away from mowing the lawn so far, which is not a bad thing. But yes, so.
By the way, we have, because I want to show him some love, some commenters on the stream. Tyler, a bit late on the show here, but TNT coverage on NHL playoffs is destroying ESPN on quality. You can say the same thing about the NBA.
Yeah.
I agree completely, Tyler.
I would agree too.
Nebraska Hawks Nest. Good morning. Need to give you guys credit. You actually made Louisiana Tech sound interesting. Iowa will be waiting to reset their dominance on Black Friday. Great show today, guys.
Yeah.
And lots of rumors that Kirk Ferentz is going to retire at the end of this coming season. Keep an eye on LeVar Woods to replace him.
Not Brian?
And Andy, because we got to throw this in there. Andy, Jacob is just become original. I used to see them at the Ranch Bowl every weekend. Nice.
See,
You're probably there.
Andy and I are kindred spirits right there, because I saw 311 twice at the Ranch Bowl. Once with the Urge and No Doubt.
Remember
and
the Urge?
The other one was with, it might have been the Urge again and someone else. I can't remember who the other one was, but I just remember thinking they were I was like still in high school. I thought they were the coolest band ever. And I still do. I like 311. This is a huge baseball week for different reasons.
Oh, by the way, Jacob also says Michigan State's got a good team coming back next year. Going to be some big expectations in East Lansing. So, yeah.
So then Tom should just leave.
Yeah.
He should just go to Phoenix and just begin a new venture. It's never too late, right? As we learned from Todd Bowles, who, by the way, just got his college degree at 59. Congratulations to Todd Bowles. That's an awesome story. Anywho, baseball gets underway as far as conference series Thursday and Friday. You do have Omaha and Creighton playing tomorrow, and the Omaha-Creighton matchup is irrelevant when it comes to RPI, but then there's the state bragging rights. But those two teams are in a similar situation where they still got a little work to be done this weekend before they can feel confident and clinching a spot in their respective conference tournaments. Not the case for Nebraska. Nebraska goes in this weekend against Purdue, already have clinched a spot. They are currently tied for fourth in the Big Ten standings, but they have clinched a spot in the Big Ten tournament. So we know you can check that off the list of things to worry about. And Nebraska looked good this weekend. They really did. But going to the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, KMTV Sean asks what I think is a decent question. And he said, as someone who knows the team, do you think that would be enough for them to show up and bring their A game against Purdue, as we were talking about Purdue and a little bit of maybe memories of Purdue not playing their final game of last regular season, which basically kicked Nebraska from being out of the Big Ten tournament and solidified Purdue getting in. I don't know if that alone will be a motivating factor, but what I do think as far as Nebraska playing, I expect them to play a good brand of baseball this weekend, is because I think the pressure is off of them. I think this is a team that when they feel a little bit more loose, as you see many teams, I think you get a better result from them. I think when there's a little bit of pressure weighing down, some teams thrive in that. Others maybe have some adjustments to be made. I think the fact that Nebraska's already got that part of the conversation out of the way, that they know they're going to be playing in the Big Ten tournament, I think you're actually going to see a very loose and very competitive Nebraska baseball team this weekend. So I expect good things. What you won't see with Nebraska baseball this weekend is Efrain Cervantes. If you saw Saturday's game, and that was on the Big Ten Network, Efrain, who hit a nice little laser out to right center field, he was destined for a double, and as he rounded first, it just, I mean, anybody who's ever suffered a hamstring pull or tear, it feels like you get shot in the back of the leg. I mean, it's just an instant, just sharp pain. And at the time when it happened, we couldn't tell if, as Ephraim rounded and he was able to make his way back to first safely, couldn't tell if he was holding his knee or what was going on. It looked bad. He was just writhing in pain. Will Bolt immediately came out there. I mean, the coaches were frantically getting out there. So you knew it was something serious based on just his body language. Then when you watch the replay, you could tell it was definitely a hamstring. And then the way that he came off of the field, putting zero pressure on it at all, and then seeing him after the game walking out of the dugout with a very pronounced limp, I feel confident in saying we probably are not going to see Ephraim Cervantes, even if Nebraska were able to make it out of the Big Ten tournament and go to the NCAA tournament. Those injuries, even if it's not a tear, even a pull or, whatever grade it might be, those things are so tough to get warm and sustain. Those injuries.
I mean, the only thing that heals them is time.
Exactly, and being off of it. And this is a significant blow to Nebraska for the simple fact that Ephraim, who I think really to his part is having his best offensive year since being with Nebraska. That's good. You can overcome what he brings to you in the lineup offensively, I think. But defensively, this is where I think it's going to be interesting on how Will Bolt addresses this, because he is a utility infielder to the very definition. Seen him playing third anytime you would see Schwellenbach come in to close a game a couple of years ago. Ephraim would usually either go to short or they would move, Max over from third to short. Ephraim would play third, and Ephraim's played second base. Lately, he's been playing first base. So this is a guy that you can really value his glove, what he does defensively. Not having that available in the Big Ten tournament, and if you were even able to go beyond, is a significant loss for Nebraska. And what was really, this is never a good thing. I don't care if you're a freshman or a senior, but he did exhaust all of his eligibility. He did come back for his COVID year this year, and this was the day before senior day for Ephraim Cervantes, and I'm sure he wanted nothing more than to spend his final regular season game at home yesterday in that series finale against Penn State, being on the field and not having to nurse an injury. So feel for Ephraim Cervantes, but from an overall roster standpoint, defensively for Nebraska, this is a significant loss. First and foremost, that's definitely, you hope Ephraim will be fine, which I'm sure he will. He'll get over this, but man, that just, for this team going into the postseason, that is a loss that you may or may not have known about over what was a very good weekend of Husker baseball. All right, going to wrap things up talking with Joel Lorenzi, get his thoughts on the final look of Creighton and the guys in the combine. Are they all coming back? Are you worried about some leaving? We will get Joel's thoughts on that and more right after this.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. For the Jays, the Huskers, and even you Jayskers, we are 1620 The Zone.
It's time to find a career that's right for you. Metropolitan Community College can help you find a new path forward on your time. Whether you need a degree that puts you on a path to a new career or need to finish a degree you've already started, MCC makes it affordable and convenient with a flexible class schedule, online or on campus. It's your time to path forward. Let MCC show you the way. Apply today at mccneb.edu/adults.
Watching a ball game at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is pretty awesome. Oscar's offers the MLB package, so your team is always on their upgraded audio-video system, and nothing is better than watching the game with a cold frosty one, Oscar's Pizza, or award-winning char-buffed wings. And with daily lunch and dinner specials, it's really a no-brainer. So get ready to watch your favorite team play ball at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill, 173rd and West Center Road, and takeout at 162nd and Maple.
Trees, are they all the same? Not at Lanahaw. Grown from a quality seed source, handcrafted in our local farms for generations, and acclimated to our tough Midwestern climate, Lanahaw's trees are different. Simply put, they're better. Much like our trees, we take great pride in being homegrown. Visit our garden center to find your next tree today. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Babbel. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at babbel.com/TNC.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard. Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day, and they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. Choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks. Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
And now try Babbel for free by texting radio to 64,000. Text radio to 64,000. That's RADIO to 64,000.
Dust. It's in the living room, the bedroom, and the bathroom. It's also in your lungs. Let's fix that, shall we? Duct Defense Midwest offers a comprehensive system that cleans, disinfects, filters, and purifies the air. They'll make your home healthier and improve the life of your HVAC system. So improve the health of your home and everyone in it. Go to cleanairradio.com right now for a special air duct cleaning offer for Zone listeners. cleanairradio.com.
At Emprise Bank, we're your partner in possible. And we believe that when we work together, your dreams are achievable, which means prototypes become production lines, startup plans become expansion plans, and the opportunities you see become the organization you run. Emprise is built for business, which means we're committed to helping you succeed. This is the power of possible. Visit emprisebank.com to learn more.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Oh, it didn't take you long to find the Saved by the Bell college years intro.
There's somebody listening that
Yeah.
it's stuck in their head, but we also took him back there.
I want to know who sang the song. It's like a Frank Stallone special right there.
You're lucky we don't have another hour of show left. Otherwise, we'd be
go Frank
we'd
Stallone
the whole hour. That's why there's
Oh.
tomorrow, unless we say the magic words in the next 16 minutes.
I love it. I love it. Got to talk some Creighton hoops. We also want to get into a little bit of the NBA happenings from the last 24 hours as we welcome in Joel Lorenzi on the Creighton beat from the Omaha World Herald. Joel, how are you, my man?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
We're good. I first of all, you've been high on the Lakers, so congrats. And we could just maybe get one of the greatest rivalries in all of the NBA with the Celtics-Lakers. But I know there's some work to be done for the Lakers and for the Celtics. More impressive to you, though, yesterday, what Jason Tatum did or what James Harden could not do and how truly disconnected James Harden looked in a huge game.
Yeah, definitely more impressed with Tatum. I think given the circumstances, breaking that Game 7 points record, especially at a game after the C's were definitely on the road. It felt like, and even though Philly is good for, letting momentum slip out their hands, under Doc Rivers in those circumstances, it's still, they were still on the road. I mean, down 3-2, going to Philly, the circumstances were way different, and he had a bad 3 quarters to have that fourth quarter and then have that kind of game. Just super impressed with him and where he stands in the league. I mean, that's a statement game. That's a legacy game.
Yeah.
They're gonna be showing that game, the Hardwood Classics on NBA TV in the next 3 years. So,
Perfectly put. I love it.
big game, and the shot making was nuts. I mean, we watched a shot making masterclass from him, and to be fair, like that game coming out the half, that game was a one possession game, man.
Yep.
He just made it. He changed the entire game, and after a while, it was like damn, this game is that's gonna happen to change this game. And then of course Philly was for sure disappointed that the conversation has changed about Philly to where everybody's hitting the panic button because the time frame for that team and whether Embiid could lead them to a championship, lead them to a conference finals. It looks grim, man.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I want to get your thoughts though. The likelihood or your confidence level, because I think it's probably more on the Lakers than maybe it is on the Celtics, not to dismiss the Heat, but what the Lakers have in front of them, that's a new beast of a challenge that we could see Lakers Celtics. Do you have some confidence that the Lakers can get through this one?
The Lakers got a shot. I'll say, I don't know if I got most of Lakers Twitter on my feed, but it seems like Lakers fans are assuming it's a wrap, which I don't think is the case at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see Nuggets fans who I think it's a wrap, and I don't think it's the case at all. I think it's a 7-game series. You've got AD who, at his peak, which I think we've seen most of in this postseason, is probably the best defender in the world, and Jokic, who might be the best. He's for sure the best offensive big man in the world, but he's up there for probably best offensive player in the league when you consider how practical he is as a playmaker and factor everything in. So, I mean, we're watching two of the best big men at work, probably two of the top three, I'd say. So to make for an interesting series, I don't think the Nuggets have seen a half-court defense like the Lakers yet. I think you saw the Lakers probably at their best in a half court against the Warriors in that last game.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be a fun series for sure. But I also think, with Jokic and how he gets others involved and stretches the floor, it'll be tough for AD. AD can't roam around the same way he could have in the couple series before. So it'll be interesting.
Joel Lorenzi joining us, and the last time we talked with you, Joel, Kaluma had not declared into the transfer portal. Last time we talked, we knew that you had Kalkbrenner, Alexander, and Kaluma testing the NBA waters. You got combine invites as well. I do want to start with the two guys that we know are part of Creighton's roster that are in the NBA combine between Ryan Kalkbrenner and Trey Alexander, because the reason I ask you this is you've been on the money from day one as far as departures and kind of how you felt about certain guys and where they would be in the future of the program. Given what we've kind of seen from the combine of Kalkbrenner, his game looking kind of smooth, do you have any concern that one or two don't return to Creighton?
Probably more than I did maybe a month ago, but I still lean Creighton. I just think there's a feeling that, at least with Ryan Kalkbrenner, there's a feeling that I've gotten since this whole thing has started that I'm not sure he necessarily needs to be drafted or guaranteed a draft pick to be able to take a comfortable deal. Because I think this is a guy who is, I'm not sure he's so worried about draft position, because in reality, Kalkbrenner has been, projected to go in the last 10 picks.
Yep.
Maybe if you're high on him in the last 12 to 15, but certainly the last 10 picks. I think if he has a great combine, maybe that changes by another 5 picks. Somebody bets on him. The upside is definitely there. But I think this is a guy that really, I think the only problem he might have had with that was he just didn't want to be spending his time in the G League. I think he would probably prefer to just go back to Creighton in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Or just spending time fighting for a contract, squirming for a contract that probably wouldn't hold up. I think that was the big deal. But if he can get something and work out something with his team to where it's like a guaranteed deal, multiple years, and undrafted free agency instead of getting picked, I think he's probably comfortable with that. And so that's just the feeling I've got.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as there's a level of security, the draft pick wouldn't matter because we've seen good deals in undrafted free agency. And so that's why I'd maybe say there's a bit more of a scare there for Creighton than I would have thought maybe a month or two ago, especially if he does well this week here in Chicago. And then Trey Alexander is probably still a toss-up. I'd probably feel better for Creighton fans about him than anything. But yeah, I think he's still a toss-up. I think what he's being offered in terms of opportunity and everything with another year at Creighton, and just what he could do with another year at Creighton in terms of his draft stock and possibly double what it is now. I think it's enticing. It just depends on what he wants and what he feels he could do. And then, of course, this week, I'm not sure how much he'll move Demeter this week because I think he probably needs another season, and this is a deep draft class. But who knows if he gets himself to, being projected in the top 45 range. I don't think his agent is going to tell him to return to Creighton.
Yeah. I want to end with this one too, with Arthur Kaluma, and again, a guy that you could kind of see trending probably wasn't going to be with Creighton. He goes into the NBA draft. We knew that that was nothing new, but then here shortly after that, he has entered the transfer portal. More likely to you that Arthur Kaluma stays in the NBA draft, or we do see him play another year of college basketball?
I through agents speak and from what I've understood over the past few months, I think Kaluma is going to be focused on the draft throughout this process. The portal thing was really a last resort, if things don't really work out for him. And, and like I said, with Kalkbrenner, I think the goal for Kaluma, and people, of course, people are going to be hurt about Kaluma or whatever. They shouldn't be surprised about the move, but I'm seeing stuff like, oh, he's not a draft pick. I've been seeing that all year. And if that's Creighton fans' pitch to get him to stay a Blue Jay, I mean, good guy like that, I don't think that would work. But people said, oh, he's not a draft pick, this and that, whatever. I never thought he had to be for him to want to leave. I think him and Mac just had different ideas of who he was as a player. And I think he preferred to be somewhere that realized that. And I'm not sure with the way Creighton runs his offense and how close it would be to probably what they would do in the pros with some of their actions. I'm not sure there's a better place than college basketball. I'm not saying off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few places better than college basketball to rock out and do what he wants to prove he's a pro in college. So I think what's left for him is probably just proving it at the pro level. And so I think he stays in the pros. I don't think he needs to be picked again with him. If he is fixed on the pros, I don't think he needs to be picked to get that kind of deal, especially if he has a good week here this next week. But of course, he still could be picked because the projections are there. I mean, he's projected by a lot of people with those back 10 picks too, and I think that's probably okay with him.
That is Creighton beat writer for the Omaha World Herald, Joel Lorenzi. Hey, by the way, Joel, awesome stuff on Dotzler as well. I had a chance to read that. Maybe we can catch back up with that next week, but good stuff there, man. Always appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
That's Joel Lorenzi. All right. Good stuff today. Big thanks to our guests on the show, including Joel Lorenzi, Jacob Bigelow, and Matt Bellinson. If you missed any of that, radio replays, we got that for you. Crossover coming up here in just a moment. Tomorrow, we are going to be getting back into the Husker preview. Which one is this?
Far From Over. You wanted Frank Stallone, I give you Frank
This is
Stallone.
a Frank Stallone banger
This
right
was
there.
the title song from the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. Some people don't know it exists.
Oh, yeah.
Called
See,
Staying Alive.
Sly might have had the movies, but Frank Stallone had the pipes, my friends. We'll continue our post-spring Husker opponent breakdown. We're going to be talking some Northern Illinois tomorrow. We'll be talking with Sam McEwen of the Omaha World Herald and much more. For Jimmy, I'm Nick. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Crossovers next. Have a great Monday.